I don't know. That doesn't seem like the downside. What can't I speak?
Downside
The downside the River Globe. Hello and welcome to Long Live Hooky Street, the podcast where we rewatch and discuss every episode of Britain's most beloved TV comedy, Only Fools and Horses. I'm Jenny and I'm joined from Hong Kong by my co-host and sister, Heather. Say hello, dude.
Hello, everyone.
Today we are discussing Series 7, Episode 3, Stage Fright. So sweep up, make the tea, and let's get started.
This episode aired on the BBC at 7:15 p.m. on Sunday, the 13th of January, 1991. This week's viewing figures were exactly the same as last week, landing at 16.6 million. The episode aired after Allo Allo, Series 7, Episode 2, An Almighty Bang, and again followed by the first run of Lovejoy, Series 2. A new song hit number 1 this week in the UK, Sadness Part 1, by the electronic musical project Enigma, and a new movie in the number 1 spot at the UK box office, Arachnophobia, starring Jeff Daniels and John Goodman. I actually love that movie, even though I have severe arachnophobia, but it took me a while before I could watch it again. Let's move on anyway to a little trivia for this week, shall we, dude?
Yes, okay, let's do that. For this third episode of Series 7, John Sullivan continues his theme of including Raquel's background in the performing arts in the plot, and has Dell form the Trotter International Star Agency as his latest venture. This was a mostly studio-bound episode with just 3 days of location shooting completed in Bristol. The studio shoots were filmed about a month before the air date on Monday the 10th and Tuesday the 11th of December 1990. More on the specific filming locations coming up. Tessa Peake-Jones had to explain to Tony Dow that she doesn't really sing. And his response was, well, she's not meant to be good. More on the performance and editing of these scenes later on in the trivia. Philip Pope gives a memorable performance in this episode as Tony Angelino, the singing dustman.
Yes.
Pope is not only an actor, he's a musical performer and a writer. He has composed an enormous amount of program themes, including Spitting Image and Not the 9 O'Clock News. His real-life wife cannot pronounce her R's, so perhaps this helped him when preparing for this role. The vocals for Raquel and Tony's rendition of Crying were pre-recorded, but during filming they actually did perform it live, and the live recording was the one that was used. And I think this probably really helped the scene to feel more real. John Sullivan had to work incredibly hard on the script for this episode. Not that he usually doesn't, but he had to craft a script for the club dressing room scene that skirted around the use of any letter R's in any of Tony's lines.
Yes.
Sullivan is quoted in the lovely Jubbly book as saying, "Normally, I like to keep the audience one step ahead of the characters, but here they were one step behind." Another classic villain appears in this episode, Eugene McCarthy, played by Roger Blake. Another familiar face on British TV, perhaps best known for Spitting Image, but has many other credits to his name. We also have Trevor Byfield here as Eric, who would go on to appear in A Touch of Frost with David Jason in the future. And finally, for now, the song Crying by Roy Orbison is used in this episode, thankfully always still allowed and not cut out, because the episode just wouldn't work without it.
What would you do?
First released in 1961, this song has reached number 1 in many countries around the world, and in 2002 received a Grammy Hall of Fame award and appeared on the Rolling Stones Top 500 Songs of All Time list in 2010.
Wow.
More trivia to come in the episode breakdown, but shall we move on to the episode rankings for this week, dude?
Yes, let's do that. So, as our regular listeners will know by now, each week we reveal and compare our rankings for the episode, and prior to recording the entire podcast, we independently ranked all 64 episodes. If you didn't already know all that, then you're not yet one of our regular punters, so we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. We usually release a new episode every Saturday, but for the 50-minute episodes we're doing one long episode every 2 weeks instead of splitting them into 2. And we really do need more subscribers, so please do give us a like if you enjoyed the episode and tell your mates about us. We really need your support to continue putting in the time and the effort that we have been, because this takes a long time, but it is very fun for us, to be fair. And if you feel inclined, you can also buy us a pina colada on buymeacoffee.com. All the links will be on the channel page and in the episode description.
Okay, dude, let's take a look at this rankings chart. I'm going to make a guess of what I think your ranking is, because based on your empty spaces, Is it in your top 10?
No.
Okay. So it's somewhere between 15 and 18 for you.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is it your number 16?
Correct.
Oh,
16 is my ranking for this episode.
Okay.
And for you, I don't have the rankings in front of me, but I imagine you ranked this quite high.
Yeah, it's much higher for me than it is for you.
So in your top 10?
It's in my top 10.
Okay. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm guessing number 8.
No, that was my Danger UXD. Okay, but since you said 8, it's Fran's number 8.
Ah.
It's my number 4.
Oh, wow. That's pretty high, yeah.
Yeah. And IMDb number 11. You're the lowest this week out of everybody.
Yes, but still not low.
So, do you want to talk about why this is your number 16?
Yeah, so this one for me is a very entertaining episode throughout, and it's also obviously got one of the funniest moments, I think, in all of Only Fools and Horses included in it. But I actually really like the pacing of this episode. It was something I was thinking about when I was watching it, is that every scene contributes to the plot, and the plot keeps moving at a nice steady pace all the way through. There is no scene in this episode I think that you could take out and it wouldn't affect the plot. And I really like that. I think the writing is really sharp.
Yeah, I thought that too, especially considering that we're watching this off the back of The Sky's the Limit and The Chance of a Lunchtime, two very kind of opposite to that we've commented on last week, where especially The Chance of a Lunchtime, the plot thread throughout the episode is very distant. It's not like it's not the focus of the episode. It's more just about something's happened. It's kind of a filler. You're right. This episode is incredibly plot driven. It's very well paced. I thought exactly the same thing as you. Every scene has a purpose. It's driving towards the end.
Yeah.
You couldn't take any of it out. And that's with that being considered, it's such an enjoyable episode to watch because you really just cling on to the story and it's so interesting, but it's still such classic normal trotter humor and everything. And you've got the addition of Raquel in this episode in a way that she's not just the side of the story and in the flat all the time. She's actually in the story properly. So
yeah, I also find her very funny in this episode as well. A number of times when I was rewatching the episode, I wrote down Raquel's look there is really funny, or what Raquel does there is really funny. So it's nice to see her get a chance to shine a little bit as well from the comedy point of view.
Yeah, it's true. And I actually think, I know that a lot of storylines in Only Fools and Horses are not realistic by nature, but her reactions to what happens in this episode is very realistic as a human being. Like, it's kind of what somebody in her position would actually do.
Yeah.
She reluctantly agrees to do something that she knows is not a good idea because she's doing it for Del. But then at the end, when she's put in a very embarrassing position, she handles it exactly as you would probably if you were a real person.
Yeah, I think the part where she corrects herself after she says crying in the song, that's very funny.
Yeah.
Crying. It's like, yeah, you would, because if you're because she's so focused on him in that scene and what he's doing that she forgets about her own part and she's just looking at him, which is absolutely what happens. Yeah. When you're on the stage.
Yeah, and for me also, with Tony Angelino being such a memorable and great character and so well played,
agreed.
Because he isn't just the butt of the joke either. At the end, you get some
heart.
It's sad to hear how he feels. Yeah, he comes across by the end of the episode as such a likable character, even though he is supposed to be the butt of the joke. So that's something that doesn't normally happen because the side characters don't normally get that much screen time. To be able to make you feel something for them. So that's another reason why this episode is a standout for me. I mean, number 4 is very high. It's in my top 5, but I would say it's a really easy episode to throw on and watch. It's really enjoyable. Anybody could watch it as well. It's another episode that's a good starter. If somebody hasn't seen the show before, they could watch it and understand it. Because again, the plot is contained within the episode.
Yeah, and I think as well that the big sort of build up and the punchline, even though you know it's coming, you're excited to get to it. In this episode, it doesn't become stale even after all this time. It's gonna come later in the episode, but you put this episode on thinking, oh, I can't wait to see the crying scene. And it's just, I think it's a really well written episode and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it before, let's say you don't actually know what the twist is, I don't think it's easy to guess at all because it's not something that you would ever think of. Like, you just wouldn't. Because Raquel says he's got a problem before they perform, so you're waiting to see what it is.
Yeah.
But could you easily guess? I don't think so.
Well, no, because this is the thing. You've already seen him perform.
Yeah.
By the time she says that. So you're thinking like, well, I've seen him perform. What's the problem? Is it that I don't know, his penis thing falls out, or did he not, or does he sweat off his tan? You know, what happens when he performs that's so dodgy? And yeah, you don't know it's this because, again, this is one of those episodes, it's a bit like the Sixth Sense of Only Fools and Horses, because you go back and watch the scene before, the dressing room scene that you mentioned in the intro, talking about John Sullivan's writing, because you want to go back and check, did he say any words with R in that scene, and did he have the problem? And it's, again, so clever that John Sullivan thought about that, because I mean, he had no idea people were going to rewatch this, surely, when it came out. I don't know if he did, but yeah, it's really great that was considered, because I think it would have ruined it a little bit if you'd gone back and seen that scene afterwards and then saw that he was using R's all the time and there was no problem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, also I have a few notes here from Fran, because we actually bothered to ask her this time why her ranking is number 8. And yeah, so for her, she said this episode is very, very nostalgic, mostly because of the older music. So she said this would have been the first time in her childhood that she heard these songs, you know, like Delilah and Do You Know the Way to San Jose? So obviously when you're a kid, a lot of the time music really does stick in your head to remind you of very specific things. Yeah. So obviously it's going to be high up for you if you have very nostalgic ties to something. So, and yeah, she let us know what her favourite line is as well. So we'll get to that when we start going through the episode breakdown.
Okay, cool. So if there's nothing else, let's start the episode breakdown. La, 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 la,
la, la, la. So we open in the Nag's Head this week, and the first conversation we see taking place is between Del, Rodney and Albert around the small round table in the foreground. Now, remember where we left off last week at the end of the last episode, Rodney has lost his job at Alan's printing firm, and Raquel had just discovered that she is pregnant. So I think we can immediately see the difference in the way that Rodney is dressed and presented here in the scene to reflect his failure.
Yeah, I wrote that. Yes, back in his casual clothes.
Yeah, just watching the next few episodes after this, that jacket that he's wearing in this scene is his unemployed jacket.
Yes.
Because he wears it all the way until he gets hired again by Del in He Ain't Heavy, He's My Uncle.
And then he's wearing a Del suit.
Yeah. We haven't seen him out of his suit in a while. Mostly he was wearing a suit all the way through Rodney Come Home and all the way through Sky's the Limit and Chance of a Lunchtime. So yeah, I think this is just a way to start off here. He is now unemployed. He's slumped in a chair. He looks defeated. The whole thing. It's just a big impression of failure. And then it ties into the dialogue here. So we have Del in his green Mac and his full yuppie get-up. And he's holding a letter and angrily talking to Albert about having not given it to him sooner.
I couldn't get in touch with you. You've been out all the morning. I thought you might have popped over at Levens's.
I told you before, Unc. 11's is for wimps. I'm out there on the yuppie tightrope, me. Nerves on red alert. A beta blocker and a dream, that's me. I eat on the move, a mobile phone in one hand and a pot noodle in the other.
I tried to get you on a mobile phone.
Yeah, that's why Del ended up with an earful of noodles.
Oh, look, the boy from the black stuff's woken up. Look.
So, a couple of things to discuss here. It's been a while since we've heard the food is for wimps reference. I think that is put in here to, you know, make sure that it's establishing that Del's in full yuppie mode in this episode.
Yes.
But also, he does mention a few times over the next couple of episodes that the business is doing very well. The only time that he says it's not is when Rodney says he's struggling and the sky's the limit. But it seems like in this whole series, he's sort of expanding to us independent traders a little bit. And he tells all of his, his peers that he's doing well when he talks to them, like Boise. So there's a lot of yuppie references through the next few episodes.
Yeah.
True. And, of course, he does reference the boys from the black stuff here, which we have mentioned before. It was an award-winning British TV drama from the early 80s. And we mentioned it during To Hollenbach, or actually we didn't mention it because we didn't know. But the guy, David Fleischman, the guy from the oil rig that goes, Holland, it's over there. He was in it. He was in that show.
Right.
And our listener pointed that out later to us. And Bernard Hill was also in Boys from the Black Stuff. King Theoden from Lord of the Rings. So. But anyway, the show was about being unemployed during the Thatcherite era, hence Del's reference to Rodney and his newfound unemployment here. So Rodney appears to be trying to stay positive, but Del gives us a reminder that not only has he lost his job, but he's left Cassandra and his home. And he also lets us know that Rodney is still drinking a lot when he says...
The only thing about him that's glowing is his liver.
So Albert does briefly mention here about a golden handshake that Rodney got from the printing firm. So this is the first and the last that we hear of this. And I think it's a bit strange just to have this reference in here and then Del just say that he blew it all away on Cuba Libras and Leary suits. Because it doesn't seem to have any relevance to anything. It just gets thrown in here.
Because in Miami twice, Rodney gets a payment. Is it the pension? Is that what he gets?
That's
in
a
Miami
pension.
twice?
It's different.
Yeah. I was just checking because I know he gets some money still from the job that he had with Alan.
Yeah. So basically, he makes a really foolish decision in Miami twice because he cashes out his pension and blows it on one vacation, which is a really bad idea. Because if he left it, because I think if you remember in Miami twice, Alan's like, oh, you know, this amount or whatever invested in this, and then Rodney's like, oh, I'll take that now, Alan.
Yeah.
He could have left it invested in the pension firm, so he could have had a nice little future nest egg, but instead he blows out to Miami.
I don't want to invest, right?
Yeah, Rodney doesn't like to invest.
No.
A lot of people fall victim to this, the glow of the idea of a lump sum, but this is different, a golden handshake. So basically just got he just got some money, and it sounds like he just blew it away on drinking and hanging out and stuff. So I don't know how much time they are indicating has passed since he left Cassandra, because I can't remember, but this is 3 months pregnant for Raquel.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, she's 3 months pregnant.
That all happens so quick, so this is supposed to be 3 months after the chance of lunchtime.
Yeah, true.
Because it seems like she just announced she was pregnant the second that she got pregnant. Don't forget, she got pregnant in one afternoon.
Yeah, it does. I mean, yeah, we never knew how long she'd been pregnant, did we, by that point? That's very true. So.
That's right. Clearly written by a male writer, because she was out drinking in the afternoon, and by that evening, it was certain.
Yeah, she knew. I think we spoke about that last time. So.
Anyway.
Bloody instant, Rodney.
Anyway, Rodney says...
I do not believe this git. He has the audacity to sit there moralising with me whilst holding a letter from the magistrate's court saying his case has been brought forward.
Everyone goes to court once in their life.
Once? I've given you your own parking space.
So then Albert gives us a little context of the time, like we just discussed. Rodney's been back at the flat for a few months, and now, because Raquel is pregnant, they need him to move out because they will want to use his old room for a nursery. And he points over to the bar here, and we see that Raquel is in the pub with them, and she's talking to Mike. And Del says,
See that lump? That's my embryo.
So we haven't had this in a while, but this is the classic something somebody says putting you off your food joke that John Sullivan loves.
Yes.
I wouldn't get put off by the word embryo.
It's always about eggs, isn't it, as well? Yeah, I ordered an omelette here.
It's about baby's conception, because so we've got the omelette, we've got this, and then later we've got the Cassandra specimen.
Yeah.
Is it supposed to be anything to do with women and reproductive stuff that puts men off their food?
I don't know. I thought it's just because he's talking about eggs, like embryo is like an egg.
I don't feel like the word embryo to me makes me think of food. It wouldn't put me off my food at all.
I don't know. If I really thought about it, might. To be honest, I'm very easily put off my food. I can't even watch a horror film and eat at the same time.
I am moderately easily put off my food, but not as much as you would think.
Okay. I don't think about it that much, to be honest.
Not as much as you, let's say.
Yeah, I'm very easily put off things. Even like a smell that I don't like if I'm eating, I'm like, oh, I can't eat now. I don't feel good.
So you would be good in Only Fools and Horses then, because you'd be put off your food very easily by one word or something.
Yes, all the time.
So Rodney puts down his sandwich. Following the events of Chance of a Lunchtime, it seems that their marriage breakup has gotten so serious that Rodney now has to get himself a bachelor pad and take council accommodation is what they're suggesting here. So I think a new viewer here would really think, I mean, as in we're seeing the episode for the first time and we don't know what comes in the future, we would think that Cassandra's been written out of the show and Rodney's marriage is over here. Yeah. Because they're talking about Rodney getting his own place. And Cassandra is not in the next 2 episodes.
That's right.
And by the time we get to the He Ain't Heavy, He's My Uncle, she's only in one scene and they're not back together. So
yeah,
Yeah, for now, I would say if you're watching this for the first time back in 1991, you would think Gwyneth Strong is gone. So Rodney tries to gain some credibility back here by saying that the council already offered him something, an LDA.
LDA? Well, that can't be bad, can it?
I'm viewing it this afternoon.
Here, listen. If you want any furniture, Young Towser's doing a marvellous line in quality reject three-piece suites.
Oh, right, yeah, could come in handy.
Yeah.
Dill, could I ask you something?
Yeah, of course you can.
What's an LDA?
I don't know.
It's an abbreviation for something.
Rodney's trying to stay positive here, I guess, guessing that maybe an LDA means luxury detached abode, and Dell is a little bit more realistic. So it shows what you had to do before the days of being able to Google stuff.
I know.
You just go off into a meeting not having any idea what an LDA is and you're not able to look it up. Because the internet was still not around, so remember that. Rodney declines another drink here because he wants to go home and meet the council mush. And I noticed here that he completely leaves a sandwich on the table as he leaves, and Albert actually starts eating it. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yes, I saw that too. It's lovely.
I don't think you really have like a good reason to leave an entire sandwich behind when you're unemployed, but whatever. Everyone knows I hate food waste by this point.
Well, it didn't get wasted because,
No.
yeah, thanks to
I'm
Albert.
glad that Albert went to eat. So Del moves over to the bar and finds that Mike is still deep in conversation with Raquel, and we hear a few snippets here. Mike is asking about names and how it might affect Raquel's career. We should address here that Raquel just shrugs and says,
What career?
Well, I thought you was an actress and singer and all that.
Yeah, well, I think in my condition I'll put my career on hold for a while. Like 15 years or so.
why do you have to put your career on hold for 15 years? I guess this is just a sign of the times because she's got pregnant, so she sort of resigns herself to being a housewife for the next 15 years.
I mean, yeah, I definitely say that's part of it, but also for Raquel's character, and it's addressed in this episode as well, that she has so much anxiety and fear about the job that she actually wants to do. I mean, you've got to really love the performing arts to work in the performing arts because it's so competitive and there's so much rejection. If you are not like 100% committed and able to sort of get past all of that stuff, then you really can't work in this industry. And obviously her confidence is also very low, which we see again and again every time she talks about it. So there's probably a little bit of both of those things. Like, yeah, she's a sign of the times. She's living with Del. She knows Del's probably not going to do a lot of parenting, so she wants to do it. That's fine. And then, yeah, she probably just thinks she's not really good enough to sort of push and have her career alongside having a baby.
So this is the last time we see Raquel actually doing stuff to do with her old career choice of being a singer, performer, unless you count the scene that was cut from the class of 62, which we'll discuss in a couple of weeks' time. She does mention it when she comes in the flat, but that scene was actually recorded. So they did still have her doing auditions and stuff, but only up until that point. So she isn't putting it on hold, although it seems in that scene that she's being pressured by Del to go on that audition.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe it wasn't the right career for her because in this episode she points out about how nervous she gets and stuff. And yeah, she doesn't seem that passionate about it because she's happy to just shrug it off and give it up. But
Yeah.
I think, yeah, it's because it's a sign of the times. It's the 90s and the show's written by a man. She basically becomes a full-time grocery shopper after this episode because every single scene she's in, she's holding the shopping.
Well, she was already doing that in Rodney Come Home.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's one of the best props for Raquel. Like her entire prop rack in the prop room is bags from Asda or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, we see that even the way that she dresses changes, considering sort of how she looked in Dates when we first met her. She looked kind of more sophisticated. She looked like, you know, she really took care of her appearance, like fashion wise. And then, yeah, by the time we sort of get to Rodney Come Home, we mainly see her in, I guess, frumpier clothes. It's almost like she was already a housewife before she even got pregnant. You know, that's kind of how it kind of comes across.
It's perhaps supposed to indicate the settling down time of their lives, as in, you know, they're settling down, they're becoming a traditional couple.
Yeah, true.
But yeah.
I mean, there's also it's also possible that because she did work as a stripper, that she's kind of decided to go as far away from that as she possibly could, because she's clearly not proud of that past and she clearly wasn't enjoying being that person and being a stripper and working that way. So it could be that's another reason that she changed how she dressed.
Yeah. I think also, you know, obviously the way that the women are dressed in this show, they basically have, you know, there's only 3 real female characters, isn't there, to talk about. There's Marlene, who is always in the most elaborate, over-the-top, crazy leopard print outfits. You've got Cassandra, who's pretty much always in like a silky shirts and like what's considered sophisticated, more expensive clothing. So for Raquel, they basically put her in what would be like the female equivalent of Dell's like slobbing around sweaters and stuff at the house.
Yeah.
She doesn't dress up because she doesn't go out that much. She's basically just wearing like the same jumper or a big baggy jumper most of the time, but then she is only not pregnant in 2 episodes. In every other episode she's pregnant, so of course she's going to be wearing frumpy clothes.
Yeah, I mean, I also think as well, just thinking about how the women are dressed in this as well, I never really thought about this before, but they're all quite modestly dressed as well throughout the entire series, with the exception of Sleepless in Peckham when they give Marlene a boob job.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think everything else, yeah, they're always pretty modestly dressed. There's no sort of low-cut tops or short skirts or anything like that at any point for any of the, as you say, the 3 regular sort of cast members.
I think it's because they're trying to like contrast them with all of the one-off tarts that are shown, you know, people like Trudy or what's the girl's name in Watching the Girls Go By?
Trudy! Yeah.
What's the girl's name watching the girls go by?
Yvonne,
yeah. Like all those women are dressed very tarty, so they're always trying to make, or what was considered tarty. I don't know if it's realistic clothes for the time, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe it isn't just the dress sense of the 80s and early 90s wasn't really that tarty. I don't really remember, to be honest.
Well, I mean, we were
I was
just
too
little
young.
kids. Yeah, I mean, I was only like 7 when this episode came out, so... Back to the bar, and Trigger starts to talk to Del while he's waiting to get served. And he says...
Hey, that reminds me. You know that down by the Riverside Club?
Yes, I'm thinking of going down there in a minute to get a drink. Mike, when you're ready. Right?
Del, I've only got 1 pair of hands, mate. Yeah, I remember the night when my wife come home and she told me she was 2 months pregnant. I was a cocktail waiter at the time.
Oh, it's a moment you'll never forget.
That's right. I remember it especially because I'd just come back from 3 months on a cruise ship.
Oh, sorry.
No, it was a lovely cruise. Do you want to see the snaps?
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I've always thought this. Like, how, not only why has he got photos from a trip in the 70s right there under the bar? And then it's such a coincidence that he's talking about that. And then he's like, oh, this is the
You want to see the snaps? I know. What is that? That's so weird.
I think it's just too funny.
Yeah. I know they do it to sort of not let her get a word in edgeways because obviously Mike is not understanding that his wife cheated on him and Raquel is, or at least that's how it's portrayed. But yeah, you're right. It's such a weird way to end that part. I don't understand.
Although I know that in those days you used to have just those photo like blocks or whatever that you picked up in the little envelopes from I can't remember what shops were around then. I remember Jessop's, but I think that was like later in the 90s.
Yeah.
You did used to have those little photo envelopes, but the fact that he had the exact right one right there under the bar as he was talking about it.
And they're not even in a little envelope, are they? They're like already out of the envelope. So it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That bit is weird, very weird, but funny.
It's really funny anyway. So anyway, Del got really angry by this point.
A mate of mine from the council depot's singing there tonight.
What?
At the down by the Riverside Club. Tony Angelino.
Who?
Tony Angelino. That's his stage name.
Oh, yes, sounds terrific, that trick, yes. A few drinks, scampi in a basket and a singing road sweeper, couldn't it?
He's not a road sweeper, he's on the dust.
Oh, well, that's the difference, isn't it? Sorry.
He sang there once before, about 6 years ago.
Really? He's back by popular demand then, is he?
Yeah. He's got a terrific voice. Gonna be a big star one day. Fancy coming down here tonight?
No.
What are you hoping for then, Del?
Well, the same again when you're ready if I can get my order in.
I'm talking about the baby.
He immediately softens when Mike asks him about the baby, and he moves over to Raquel and he says he thinks the baby will be a boy, which is a running theme. He keeps thinking the baby's going to be a boy. And Del really wants a boy, I guess. I don't know if it really matters to me, but like it does seem like he really wants a boy.
I think it's always portrayed like that the men want a boy, like a son and heir. I think that's probably how it's just sort of always thought of. I mean, it's a cliche, but it might be true a lot of the time. I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know about if people care about it as much nowadays, but I do think in those days, yeah.
I mean, obviously, the bonus of having a boy rather than having a girl is that your boy won't get pregnant.
I think in this case, it's more the family name and carrying on the business is supposed to be the idea of it, right? But
yeah,
I don't think, because that's definitely why Boise wants a son. But I think they're trying to portray the successful people like Boise and Dell, arguably, want a son because so they'll carry on the Trotter name. That's what I think. But so Dell and Raquel move over to my favourite table to chat, and Dell asks Raquel if she has told her family. Now, it's worth noting here that she says she's written to her parents, but they must have not gotten that letter because later in Heroes and Villains, she says that she told them they had a grandson and they were very pleased. So no big deal because this is years later, but that is a little note I had here for continuity reasons.
Yes.
Also, the brother vanishes from her history, right? At this point, she never mentions the brother again.
No.
The most important person that Dell is wondering about is actually her husband. And we don't get a lot of information here. Just a reminder that she's still married and the divorce proceedings are taking a while. And that's maybe why Dell and Raquel are not getting married yet. But they do talk about it. This is how this whole conversation starts. Mike says, you can hold a nice little wedding reception here.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, the long-term audience, we all know that they never get married.
Yeah.
So it's strange here that they do talk about it as if they're gonna. And Raquel even hints that she wants an engagement ring. But still, doesn't matter. Just worth noting.
Maybe they will put off the idea after the next episode. Because of everything that happened. Maybe they were just like, marriage is maybe not worth it, all the aggro it can cause in the long run. I don't know.
Am I right in saying that there's a mention that the divorce gets finalized, or there never is a mention?
There isn't, but obviously at the end of Class of 62, it's one of the terms that Dell gives Slater to give Raquel a divorce and everything. So, I mean, we assume that she did get divorced because that happened. But yes, they never talk about marriage again after this. You're right.
Well, the only time I can remember it getting mentioned is when, I think in Fatal Extraction or something, and Rodney says, but he and Raquel aren't married.
Yeah.
Or something. Or you and Raquel aren't married. Oh, it's when they're talking about marriage counselling.
Right.
And Rodney's like, you and Raquel aren't married. But they don't really mention it, again. Which is actually probably brings up a little bit of a silly, but like, we could probably discuss it, idea of when he becomes a millionaire. They're not married. Which means Raquel technically wouldn't be entitled to the money. Am I right?
Yeah, no entitlement. But then he's also not entitled to any of the money that Raquel, in theory, gets from Slater.
That's right.
Because she should have got quite a payment, like a lump sum off Slater, thanks to what happens in Class of 62. And Dell's not entitled to any of that either.
But we never hear about that money again either.
No.
Not that it matters. I'm just mentioning it. So here, Albert starts playing Slow Boat to China on the piano in the background, and Dell says,
He's playing our song. Badly.
do we think this is strange too? Why is this their song? This was one of the most humiliating moments of Dell's life.
Yeah.
Why?
I wrote that too. I said, it's funny that Slow Boat to China is their song, since that's the song she stripped off to in front of Albert.
Yeah. And Dell was heartbroken and ran out the pub.
Yeah. And obviously, we the audience know that actually it's their song because it was what was played at the end of Dates over the montage of Raquel leaving. So from our point of view, yes, it's their song. But from Dell's point of view and Raquel's point of view, why would this be their song?
Yeah, I always thought this was really funny, that he says that's their song. Dell sets up the next scene by telling Raquel that he's going down to a club and he wants her to accept his rather casual marriage proposal here.
Now, everything's going well. Gonna have a lovely future. This time next year, I'm gonna be a millionaire.
All right, then, I accept.
Good girl. You know it makes sense.
Maybe tomorrow we could go out and buy an engagement ring.
No, I can't tomorrow, darling. I'm in court.
And that is the end of the scene, which feels like it took me forever to get through. Any notes?
The pot noodle line, from what I remember, was in one of the documentaries to sort of showcase Dell's character. It was a nice summing up of Dell's personality, Filofax in one hand, a pot noodle in the other. I also said it's really nice to see Albert defending Rodney to Dell. Like, Albert's sticking up for Rodney when Dell's laying into him about losing his job and, being a deadbeat, essentially. And Albert's like, oh, you should be giving him support. And that's quite funny because we've seen Albert, taking the piss out of Rodney and not giving him support. So it's interesting how they just sort of change towards each other depending on the situation. I also said, does Dell go to court a lot? Because I'd actually love to know more about Dell's criminal record. Like, what's Dell actually been done for? And has he ever been to prison? Because it looks like he hasn't. But if he's in trouble this much, I'm surprised they haven't given him a custodial sentence at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there are hints that, like, I think, is it in To Hell and Back? Slater's board thing says, is it Monkey Harris? Is it Away or whatever? And Trigger's been to prison.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it does indicate a lot of the others have done time in prison.
Yeah.
But yeah, Del, we don't know for sure because we haven't seen his entire history, but this is the only episode where they really sort of hint that Del goes to court a lot. I think it's mentioned maybe in another episode, but for some reason they really play it up in this episode that he goes so often he's got his own parking space, but it isn't really mentioned again, is it?
Well, we know in Hole in One that his name was sent to the director of public prosecutions. And then, of course, we know in May the Force Be With You that he was arrested by Slater. So he would have shown up. Obviously, we know he got released because of the way he tricked Slater. But there are, a few hints. The long legs of the law, like they went round to his flat. I mean, there's a lot of sort of brushes with the law in other episodes. So I don't know. I just find it hard to believe that Del, given how he lives, would never have been to prison, at least for a short time. So yeah, but we just never know about it. Nice to hear a mention of young Towser. We haven't heard his name for quite a long time. I can't even remember the last time we heard young Towser. Was it Healthy Competition?
It could be.
That was Alfie Flowers. Young Towser was the one. Yeah, young Towser was the one who sold him the lawnmower engines.
He's the one who goes to the restaurant. Yeah,
that's a long time ago. Yeah.
I mean, young Towser is one of the only side characters that appeared in just one episode like this that gets mentioned over and over. Because Monkey Harris never comes into the show, does he?
No, true.
Or Lenny Norris, or
loads of them.
Or Paddy the Greek, Sunglasses Ron. Yeah.
Just thought that was interesting to hear his name mentioned again. It's a bit weird that Del doesn't stand next to Raquel when he goes over to the bar, and he stands next to Trigger, like in between Trigger and this other guy, and Raquel's like over there talking to Mike. Like Del would have, again, it's for the joke, I know it is, but yeah, it's a bit weird that Del doesn't stand with her. So I have a question about Raquel and Slater here, because she says here they've been apart for 7 years. Where does that go back to in episodes?
Oh, yeah, I know. I've been struggling with this because I was writing the script for a class of 62 because there's a contradiction. In dates, she said she was married for 9 years, right?
Yes.
And then in class of 62, she says 4 years, which is a pretty massive difference.
Yes.
Here, how long does she say they've been apart here?
She said they've been apart for 7 years.
Okay.
So still married but apart. So how long were they actually?
Well, dates was 88. This is 91. So if they're sticking with the actual ages, which I think they are because Rodney was supposed to be 26 in dates. So dates was 3 years ago. So that means they would have been apart for 4 years when Del met Raquel, which makes sense because to Hullenbach, Slater went to prison. So they must have broken up when he went to prison, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's what we're assuming broke them up is Slater going to prison.
Can it be what broke them up? Because she says the solicitor's trying to trace his whereabouts. As far as they know, he's in jail. Why would they have a hard time tracing his whereabouts?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. I'm assuming that when John Sullivan wrote dates, he did not plan for Slater to be Raquel's husband.
No, and I can tell you that in advance, according to what he said in Lovely Jubbly about Class of 62, not only did he not plan it in dates, but he didn't even plan it in The Chance of a Lunchtime. When she says my husband was a policeman, apparently that is not a reference to Slater.
Wow.
He said he only put that line in that episode to scare Del for a second and make him cover up all the stuff.
Yeah.
So that isn't even like foreshadowing. That was not planned by that point. So he says.
Yeah.
Although all the scripts were written together, so it is a little bit potentially confusing there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonderful twist. Obviously, we'll talk about that more when we do Class of 62.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wondered sort of timeline-wise, because I think we talked about it a little bit back into Hullenbach.
Yeah.
And that's all I had for that scene.
Yeah, we'll basically, with all the timeline stuff, we'll try to sum that up in the series end summary that we do, because the series 7 end summary is going to be the last time we ever do an end summary. So we'll just wrap up all the continuity stuff and then we'll shut up about it.
Well, we are planning to do a conclusion episode to the whole podcast, so I suppose we talk a little bit about it there as well. But yeah, overall series continuity, yes, we'll just do it.
We'll finish with the timeline continuity issues in the series 7 wrap, and then everything else will just get pushed all the way to the very end of time. Okay, so now we are in the Starlight rooms, and scenes at the Starlight rooms were shot at an actual club called the Studio Night Club, which was on Frogmore Street in Bristol. And these scenes were filmed across 2 location filming days. These scenes with just Del and Eric would have been shot on day 1, where they didn't have any of the extras. So that would be Sunday, the 21st of October, 1990. And the very next day, they went ahead and filmed The Gig in the same room with the room full of extras. So here we just have Del arriving across a big empty venue, and Eric is sitting alone at a table. And continuing on from the trivia here, Eric was played by actor Trevor Byfield, who did go on to star again with David Jason in the future in A Touch of Frost, but that really goes nowhere to highlighting how many credits are on his IMDb list. It was very, very long. So in his earlier years, he appeared to be credited as Ziggy or Zig Byfield, and he got his start in acting on stage, where he appeared alongside Joan Armatrading and Richard O'Brien in a production of Hair and the Rocky Horror Show. So more film and TV work included The Professionals, Minder, One Foot in the Grave. He played recurring roles in The Knock, Ghost Hunter, The Bill, Heartbeat, Doctors. The list really does go on and on. And he was also in the James Bond movie Goldeneye, 5 years after this episode. He passed away in 2017 at the age of 73 from pneumonia. I thought the Joan Armatrading link was pretty interesting because she was just the singer from the Rodney Come Home's famous credits song. So Del heads over and greets Eric, and now there's a little Charles Dickens reference here where Eric calls him Marley's ghost, which I thought was really interesting. So that's a reference to A Christmas Carol, with the appearance of Jacob Marley's ghost serving as a dire warning about consequences of greed and emotional detachment.
Great way to sum up Del.
Yeah, John Sullivan loved Charles Dickens and said that it was one of his original things that got him interested in writing in the old days. So can probably see why he used that reference. The dialogue continues a little bit here, which establishes that there's some history between Del and Eric, which I guess is very important for this episode.
Yes.
Because it seems that Eric is setting Del up for failure in this episode, but in this scene, we, the audience, don't know that, apart from a couple of little hints that are Eric's grin and stuff. But I feel like you don't necessarily know he's being set up in this scene. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, from the later scene when Boise and Mike are giving him all the information, it almost feels like they're in on it with Eric.
Yeah, it feels like that in that scene they're kidding, but they aren't kidding because what they say is actually true, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It seems like they know an awful lot of information that would have been fed to them likely by Eric, because how would they know all this otherwise?
Yeah, exactly. And they know Eric. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he's like, don't the one who don't like you doesn't something about Boise knows the whole situation. So yeah, it feels like Eric has sort of recruited Boise and Mike to give Del the news to scare him.
Well, yeah, I mean, so Del knows that Eric was upset with him because he does say that in the scene right after we had that misunderstanding, and it seems like Eric's still angry, and then he just goes, forget it.
Yeah, but he acts like he doesn't remember it at first, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But you did, didn't you?
Yeah. What misunderstanding? It's a little difficult to know, but if you read the script for this scene, it's clear because it says in the script that he does a lot of evil grins and stuff, which actually are not in the episode in the place that it says they are in the script. So they must have made a decision that it was too obvious in the scene that Eric was plotting.
Yeah, I suppose if you look at it in that context, when he pulls the plug on Del singing, it's almost like he's unplugging his machine in the hospital.
Yeah. I didn't write in the script, but I remember that bit is not in the script where Del sings and Eric pulls the plug. So they must have thrown that in. But
that's one of my favourite moments in the scene.
So here's the quote that we're talking about.
How long ago was it since we last met? What was it? Must be, 5, 6 years?
That long, is it?
Yeah, so just after we had that little misunderstanding.
I don't remember that.
Yes, you do. You said I'd done you out of 500 quid.
Well, you did, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I told you at the time, didn't I? It was just a misunderstanding.
Yeah, well, we best let sleeping dogs lie, haven't we, Del?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So the remainder of this scene is just setting up our storyline. Eric needs a cabaret act, and he's hoping to get Del to supply it because he's heard that he's now living with a bird that used to do some singing. And Del actually does the right thing here and says definitely no, he must have to respect Raquel's wishes. And he tries a couple tactics here to get Del to agree, but Del really is adamant he's not going to do this until Eric says,
I'd have made it worth her while. 600 quid for one night's work ain't to be sneezed at.
She'll need a backing group.
So this is the bit here where it says in the script, as Del signs, we see Eric grin, an evil, vengeful grin. And that's the end of the scene. Any notes, dude?
So first of all, I just want to say that these places, these chairs, they really remind me of my childhood. Like the old parties we used to go to in pubs, they always had these chairs in their function room. So yeah, I've got to say, I don't think the Starlight Rooms looks that posh, actually. I mentioned when we see the Down by the Riverside Club, I don't think there's that much distinction between the two places, whereas, you know, the Starlight Rooms is meant to be really posh. I guess the stage is posher, but the actual venue looks kind of the same.
Do you think the Starlight Rooms looks posher than the Mardi Gras?
I'd say, yeah, it looks similar to the Mardi Gras. I guess the only thing I noticed about the Down by the Riverside Club was the fruit machines in the background, which makes it more like a pub, which they don't have in the Starlight Rooms. But yeah, these venues, to me, they're 10 a penny. They all look the same. These sorts of places, I think.
Yeah, and then in Yuppie Love, it makes it sound like the Down by the Riverside Club is really, really rough. It doesn't look that rough, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly what I wrote, about the next scene. I said it actually looks quite nice, actually. And when I was a kid, I always thought that Eric sounded a lot like Frank Butcher from EastEnders. It's got like that kind of voice, that one, you know?
He does.
That's totally the wrong accent I just did there. But yes, he's got that same kind of voice.
Yeah.
I don't know where my accent went then. And I actually had a question, because I don't know if this gets cut out, because Eric says that Del has a shitty little 3-wheeled van. We know that shit has been censored a number of times in previous episodes. I don't know if this was ever censored.
I did not think about that. And yeah, I've not watched a cut version. So it's on my DVD for sure. And it's on the MP4 file that we're using, which is supposed to be uncut.
Yeah.
So I've never seen that cut out, but they could have cut that whole line out, couldn't they? Or bleeped shitty, I guess.
Because, it's definitely been cut in previous episodes, so I just wondered if anyone had any information about that. You can write in the comments. I also think it's interesting that Eric pointed out that Del is living with a girl who used to do some singing, and surely the thing that Raquel is known for in Beckham is that she used to do stripping. Because actually Del is the only one who knows that Raquel used to do singing. She shared that with him, but everybody else would, if they know anything about her, they'd know about her stripping, and they'd know about her doing the magician's act in Jolly Boy's outing.
Yeah, but obviously Boise talked to Eric as well.
Yeah, Boise's the last one who's going to be like, oh, she's a singer. And Boise's like, it's Raquel, the strippogram.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is obviously set up by Eric, so he must have done his research to find out.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that he mentions that.
We could wonder why. So he doesn't care whether the cabaret is good or bad. He's just trying to offload the responsibility to somebody.
To Del.
So when he has the vengeful grin, he assumes Del's going to get beaten up no matter what. He doesn't know whether Raquel is good or not.
Yeah, true.
And he certainly couldn't have predicted Del hiring a singer that couldn't pronounce his R's.
So yeah, I just had one other note, is that 600 quid for one night's work is pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially then, because 600 quid was even more. Because even in this day and age, getting 600 quid for one night's work is pretty amazing. So 600 quid with inflation back then probably would have been like, what, a grand or something like that. So
yeah, it's like in most cases around 2.6 times the amount or whatever. So yeah, well over $1,000.
Yeah. For one night's work. So yeah, pretty good money.
But it is good money though. That's not disputed, is it? Because Del's like, she'll need a backing group straight away when he hears that. He's able to actually split up this 600 to compensate everybody. Like if this had gone well, and I mean it did, I guess, ultimately, but like let's say he had hired a what's considered a good singer, that's not bad at all as an agent. If you got to keep a cut, all he paid Rodney was 50 quid. He pays the singers a little bit each. Is a ton of money. Yeah,
I can't imagine the venue would have been making much money.
Yeah, how can Eric afford to do that, to pay 600 for one
Well, I
night?
suppose it's Eugene's money, so I don't think it matters. Obviously he's loaded, so
yeah, because Eugene is supposed to be like a Driscoll brother type, right?
But that's all I have for that scene.
Might have been kind of interesting in this episode to have had the Driscoll brothers rather than
I wrote exactly that
Eugene,
later on.
yeah.
I said I kind of wish we'd had the Driscoll brothers in charge of the club rather than, and not that I don't like Eugene, but
yeah, I like Eugene as a baddie.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see them again.
But it would have been an interesting twist to have the Driscoll brothers and their mom's birthday, maybe.
But then their mom is dead, so that would have been interesting.
Is she? Their dad is dead.
He says he used to look after your old mom, right? As in, like, implying that she died. I thought
I don't know if she died. He used to just give her groceries. Did they actually say she died?
Oh, maybe not. Maybe I just misinterpreted that, because the way he referred to it's almost like in the past tense. Like, who used to look after your dear old mum, like when she was alive? That's what always thought was implied.
I thought it was while they were in jail.
Yeah, it is. But I thought like, and they never got to see her or look after her because they were in jail the whole time she was alive and then she was dead. That's what I always got from it. But maybe I'm wrong about that.
I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
No.
We go back to Nelson Mandela and we're immediately launched into the aftermath of Del's decision to sign this contract. So we see Del and Albert and Raquel are all eating their lunch, and straight away we hear,
What do you mean you promised him?
Well, what can I do, sweetheart? He's a mate in trouble.
I don't care who it is, Del, I'm not doing it.
Look, I gave him your word.
Well, you had no right to.
But it's 300 quid,
But
Raquel.
how much is it?
So at this point, Raquel is firmly in the no camp. She is not going to do this. And Del is trying all of his very bestest persuasion techniques here. The audience groans when he says 300 quid, so it's very obvious that he's doing to Raquel what he's always done to Rodney or Grandad or Albert in the past.
Yes.
And telling them a lower amount than he actually is getting.
Oh, but this is so much worse. It's half the amount. My God, that's terrible.
It's not like he's saying, you know, like he used to, like, we're getting 500 quid, so you get 100. It's not like that. He just tells her the wrong amount or a lower amount.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've seen Del do business that includes Raquel. And the only time, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Unless you count her helping him in Mother Nature's Son.
We don't know how much she gets paid for that.
So anyway, Raquel does put forward some pretty good points here to explain why she doesn't want to do this.
Del, I've never sung in a real nightclub before.
Yes, you have. What about that poster you showed us when you was top of the bill with Otis Redding at Talk of the Town London?
It was Laurie London at the Talk of the Town Reading.
So yeah, this is Fran's favourite line, so I'll highlight that
Yes.
right now. She mentioned, and that is a really, really great line. They're very well written and it's hilarious.
And very well delivered.
Yeah, it's also one of those classic examples of Del like hearing something completely differently and flipping it in his head to make it a million times better than it is.
Yes.
Or was. So such a great line. And we get a couple of nice references back here that are consistent with the history that we've seen of Raquel. She talks about the double acts and she mentions the Great Raymondo, which we saw in the Jolly Boys outing. And she mentions Double Cream, which she did mention on her first date with Del in Dates.
Yes.
So these are two pretty good continuity wins here that we get. I love all of the writing overall, but the most important thing that this does is allow Raquel to tell Del that she doesn't really mind performing when it's part of a double act because there's somebody there to share the blame. And Del capitalizes on that and says he will get someone to sing along with her.
It's not as simple as that. You've got to get to know each other. Rehearse. Find out whether you can harmonise, whether you're even compatible.
Yeah, we'll do all that and all.
When's the show?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night? It's impossible.
So Del feels like he might be losing his moneymaker here, so he tries another approach. He shows Raquel the contract that he signed and he tries to guilt her into not letting him down, like his mom and his dad and Rodney. And
I know.
and funnily enough, this only seems to work after Albert reveals that Del lied about the amount when he says they're paying 600, and then Del gives a flimsy excuse as to why that was. Because he wanted to take the pressure off. Because.
I love that Del's kind of singing it.
It's kind of a Hugo sort of because.
It is very Hugo. Victor and Hugo.
He says he was trying to take the pressure off, and Raquel actually believes him and kisses his hand and says thank you.
Yes, I don't get this reaction at all. I completely agree. It's just thank you. Like, does she actually think that does she actually believe that? Or is she just like, oh, it's too much trouble? Or is she being sarcastic? Like, I don't really get that either.
I think it's just a joke, isn't it? That like she does love him so much that I think she knows that he's sort of kidding, but she does, yeah, because she snatches the contract and has a very knowing look on her face. She knows that he lied.
I love the way she snatches the contract.
Yeah.
Her facial expression. It's so funny.
But I guess it goes to show that she loves him so much that she will eventually back down. I suppose that's the joke. You can see Raquel is weakening here, and Del starts to sort of say, get hopeful, and he says...
That means you'll do it for me, sweetheart.
But who will I be singing with?
Don't you worry about that. I won't put you wrong. You trust me. Listen, what we'll do later on, we'll go through all my LPs and make a list of classic hits for you to sing.
But these songs have got to have a musical arrangement. We'll need a pianist.
Well, that's no problem, is it? Right? Albert?
Yes, Del?
Go and fetch the yellow pages. We'll find a musician.
Aww.
I know.
Poor Albert. He looks so sad when he walks over with the yellow pages.
It would have been really sweet to have Albert play the piano. I don't know if he could have, but...
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it always implies that Albert kind of has some songs that he just knows off the top of his head. We never see him reading sheet music, so I don't know if he could just play anything.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I mean, Buster Merrifield probably could, but not Albert.
Yeah. But because Buster Merrifield could play the piano, I wonder why they didn't have him play the piano in this, because it would have been kind of cool to have him play the piano. But
yeah, it would have been.
Yeah.
I guess in a venue like that, though, it would have been a bit out of place having someone that looks like Albert playing the piano, even if they put a suit on him.
he cleans up really nicely in a suit. So.
He does. But he still looks like he's put his head on upside down.
Del tells Raquel to start warming up her voice, so she heads into the kitchen to make a coffee and starts singing in the background. And Del and Albert look very pleased as Raquel starts to sing.
Oh, it's so cute, isn't it? The way they're just sort of like, oh, about her singing. It's really cute.
They love it, yeah. And then Del tells Raquel to sing up. She's singing Do You Know the Way to San Jose? And this is when Rodney arrives home from his tour of his LDA, looking, again, very defeated. And as he arrives, Del says,
Rodney, Raquel's singing in the Starlight rooms.
Yeah? Her voice done half-travelled, doesn't it?
I would say this definitely has to be a contender for your favourite line, because I know you love
Yeah, I
sarcastic
love
Rodney.
this. It always makes me laugh.
I mean, this even gets a little bit of applause.
It's such a simple joke, but it's really funny.
It is. It's just a really great little sarcastic Rodney line.
Yes, again, sarcastic Rodney, my favourite. That's probably one of the other reasons I love it so much.
And here we have sarcastic and depressed Rodney, because he got back from his LDA, and it turns out it doesn't mean luxury detached abode. It means
LDA stands for low demand accommodation.
What's that then?
Well, it's a place where nobody else wants to live.
What are they like?
They're like this.
You saucy git. This place, I'll have you know that we... Yeah. If Raquel, turn the noise down, will ya? We can't hear ourselves finger here.
I love how determined Raquel's singing suddenly becomes in that moment. It's like she's got this like really deep voice. She's like, do you know to San Jose? Like, it's really, really commanding suddenly.
I couldn't find anything about this, but I wondered, was Chesapeake Jones just standing off the set blasting this out, or did they play it back?
Yeah, I'd imagine she probably was. Yeah.
It is really funny the way that she's just like, some peace I find.
Yeah, it's really good.
So she suddenly stops singing and comes back into the living room, and the conversation turns straight back to Rodney's plight. He needs to immediately go and find somewhere to live, even though they stop worrying about this completely after this episode. But Raquel is soon going to be dropping her kiddie, and Raquel suggests Rodney get another job.
It's not that funny, Albert.
So here in this episode, we get the beginning of the conversation that continues back around in He Ain't Heavy, He's My Uncle, where they all discuss why Rodney cannot get another job. And this is obviously very contrived. It has to be this way in the eyes of the audience. It is a pretty good explanation, I guess perfectly plausible, but the only thing that doesn't really make sense is that if Rodney were able to get the job with Alan and he has that on his job history, it's quite possible that another company would see that and not care about his other job history. But I do know England is a lot more strict about this than the US, so I could be forgetting. But in this country, it doesn't really matter. You can just lie about your job history and they won't really verify anything.
Yeah.
I was so fresh off the boat when I first moved here. I was concerned about all my references and would they be able to contact people in England about my jobs. And it turns out that they just don't give a shit here, and you can say anything you want, and you can just put your friend down on your resume and they'll call you a friend. But in England, they do, for every job, they check your entire government job history. Is that right?
I mean, obviously, I also haven't got a clue because I already, I went straight from university to Hong Kong, so I have no idea. I worked obviously when I was, in my teens in the UK, but, not in jobs that anyone would have cared about calling references or checking my job history. So I think, I think in Hong Kong, it depends on the company you're working for. Some companies really care and some don't. I think for schools, the stuff that I work in, they do care a lot more because obviously they have to sort of verify your background a lot more when you're working with children. But I also had a question about this because obviously Rodney hasn't had many jobs, but when he worked for Mr. Jahan, in The Frog's Legacy, wouldn't he have had some sort of, because I can't see Mr. Jahan being like very under the table and sort of registering him as an employee. I don't know.
Actually, he does say in The Frog's Legacy is cash in hand, if you remember, and Adele says that's only temporary, but he probably never did progress.
Right.
Yeah, I guess the insinuation is that any job that Rodney has had has been cash in hand or under the table, except for his job with Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the national insurance thing, right? It's tax and national insurance, because Rodney, sort of on his resume, hasn't paid any tax or national insurance for 10 years.
Yeah.
And that would be considered quite dodgy. I guess that's the issue, right? But I know when I watch Coronation Street, because obviously I always watch old reruns of Coronation Street, this is the thing they always bring up when they're sort of going for interviews, the characters that have been in prison. That there's always like a gap in the CV, and they're always like, what did you do for these 2 years? And it's always like, oh, I was inside. But obviously Rodney wasn't in prison. So I guess they would ask about it. And obviously in here, if he's my uncle, they say he's been on safari, which actually is not a bad thing to say. Like Rodney could have said, I've been out of the country. Like, look at our situation. If you and I both went back to the UK now, I'd have an 18 years. Did you watch that? I'd have an 18-year gap where I haven't worked in the UK. So I would have to explain that away. And of course, I have been overseas. So why couldn't Rodney have said, I've been overseas? It's not, completely implausible.
That obviously, that isn't until He Ain't Heavy As My Uncle that they discuss that. But yeah, here they just summarize, and they're saying that he vanished from public records here. And the only thing that would show up if anybody searched him would be his drug charge.
Right. Yeah.
I do remember that in the old days of creating a CV in the UK, they always used to say you have to explain gaps in employment history because it will raise a red flag. And this was 1991. So I think this is probably pretty realistic for its time. I don't know about now.
It's interesting because, I think in Hong Kong anyway, in the teaching industry, a red flag would be if you've had multiple schools, like you only stay for 1 year in every school that you work in and move on. That would be probably quite a red flag to people here, that you've had so many jobs. I don't know if that would be the same in the US or the UK.
Like I said, here, you just basically pick and choose what you put on your resume. Like, I don't think it matters at all. I was worried when I moved, because when I moved to Texas, I didn't get a proper job for 4 years. I basically ran my own company, just pet sitting and selling stuff on eBay. And that was enough money for me and my husband for those 4 years. And I was a little concerned when I started applying again for real jobs. Nobody gave a shit. I got every interview and got offered every job I went for. Nobody cares. No one was like, what were you doing for those 4 years? Nobody asked.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm a freelancer and I have been for the last 10 years. So I have sort of no fixed job that you can sort of contact and be like, oh, that's where she worked for the last 10 years. So I'm not lying, but I could be lying about being a freelancer and working in multiple places over the last 10 years.
The only thing that I noted here in my notes, which is maybe something interesting, is this the first time that the drug charge has been mentioned since Series 5? Because I think
it is.
I think we talked about in Series 6 how because Rodney was grown up and with Cassandra that they just stopped bringing it up all the time. It was brought up like all the time.
Yeah, we did mention that it wasn't mentioned again.
It might be the last time since Royal Flush even that it's been brought up. Because another thing that we did note was that the whole focus on it in a Royal Flush was very negative, and like Royal Flush wasn't received well. So is it possible that John Sullivan had pulled away from mentioning the drug charge all the way through Series 6 as a way of reinventing Rodney's character almost? And then having it brought back up at this point is quite significant because it's like, well, he's in his failure phase now, so we're going to bring it back up and say...
We'll talk about it again. Yeah, that's true, actually.
This is a reason why he's being held back again by this one tiny thing that he did that isn't even really a crime.
Yeah.
Back when he was 16 years old. Yeah,
yeah, it could be. Because, they do seem to sort of almost de-age Rodney again when he loses his job and sort of having the fight with Cassandra. His immaturity comes racing to the surface, and he just kind of goes back to his old character a little bit, and maybe bringing the drugs charge back is part of that.
Yeah, but the only thing that I wrote here that is potentially implausible, I guess, is that he had that job for at least 18 months, and Raquel points out that he's gonna get a glowing reference from Alan. So
Yeah.
Does that not count for anything at all in Rodney's ability to apply?
Yeah, and it's a managerial position as well. He's not just like a dog's body, is he?
And how come Alan didn't care about the drugs charge?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe Alan doesn't know.
I mean, maybe he doesn't know, but he would have had to have taken on Rodney as a proper employee and done the background check like any other company, surely.
Yeah, criminal records, I guess you would. Although I don't know in those days. Nowadays, yes, but maybe because you always hear about sort of people who weren't checked properly. You know, just an awful thing to bring up, but Ian Huntley springs to mind, like, because they didn't do a proper background check on him.
I would say, honestly, all of this to say that this is forcing Rodney back to trot as independent traders. That's the whole point of this.
Yeah.
Because Rodney laughs off the idea of applying for another job, but I don't think it's completely implausible that he could just apply for some other jobs.
No.
And he doesn't go on the dole either. Is there a reason for that? Surely he could just sign on the dole.
Yeah, I mean, this is the other thing as well, because I think that to sign on the dole, you have to prove that you are unemployable.
Yeah, but he is, though.
Right? There has to be like
Is
some.
he saying he is?
Well, then is he, though? This is what I mean. Because as you just mentioned, Rodney's never actually tried to get a job, has he?
Well, also, maybe because he resigned, does that invalidate him from the dole?
Maybe. Yeah, it could do. So I don't know. I guess, yeah, we'd need to know more about the UK in the early 90s with working, and neither of us would be able to say anything about that.
Yeah, I mean, he basically says he's got no prospects except the window cleaning thing, but he's afraid of heights. And I love Albert's suggestion of specialising in bungalows. It's really Rodney's.
I love that too.
It's Nicholas face after this line that is so hilarious. It really is the most hilarious response without any words. A window cleaner that specialises in bungalows. But anyway, Raquel accepts that Rodney is now unemployable as she leaves the room, and Del sees his opportunity again here to capitalise on Rodney's failure.
It's a great pity, you know, Rodney, you can't get a job doing something that you like. Like, you know, I don't know, like sort of music. Because you're interested in music, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's only sort of, you know, just a part-time job.
Yeah, that'd do.
I don't know, what, like, you know, something like a road manager or something.
Yeah, where am I going to get something like that?
You never know your luck, Rodney, you never know your luck.
The scene ends on Rodney's face of realisation, and things are normalising in the Trotters' relationship. Any notes here, dude?
First of all, Del cheating Raquel out of money is terrible. I mean, obviously it doesn't succeed, but that's terrible that he decided to do that. I said it's strange that Eric wants to pay 600 quid to someone that he's never heard before. But as you said earlier, it doesn't matter if they're good or bad. I suppose he's kind of hoping that they'll be bad, so Del will get beaten up.
Yeah, I think he prefers bad,
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that Raquel didn't notice that it was 600 quid when she glanced at the contract, because she looked at it before Albert did, and it's actually very short what's written on the paper. You can see it. So I'm surprised she didn't see. That's the first thing I notice when I look at contracts, is what the payment is. So yeah, that's interesting.
But she noticed the Trotter International Star Agency.
Yes, exactly. I said, could the low demand accommodation really have been any worse than the Trotter flat? I mean, Rodney sort of says that as a joke, but could it really have been that much worse than Nelson Mandela? And obviously they want Rodney out, so I'm surprised that they didn't try and sort of push him to take it a bit more. They just kind of left it alone, as you said. And also at the end, when Del starts talking about music and Rodney being interested in it, this would have been a perfect opportunity for them to bring up the events of It's Only Rock and Roll.
Yeah, I know. That gets so forgotten, never brought back up.
Yeah, because, I mean, Rodney, when Del's like, you're interested in music, aren't you? He's like, yeah, I am, but you crushed my dream when you sent them off to go and be a band, and I could have been a famous musician by now. Like, that would have been the natural thing that someone would have said, but that's all I had.
Yeah, I added a note here as well, because in anticipation of recording this episode, we actually got a note from one of our followers, Killian, that pointed out that the food on Raquel's plate does change around a little bit in this scene. So I had to go back and watch it. It's just a what am I trying to say, shot continuity issue. If you look, as the camera continues to cut back to the table, because Raquel has abandoned her plate and gone over to the couch, every time the scene cuts back, the food on Raquel's plate is different, and the knife and fork actually disappear in one of the scenes. The knife and fork vanish, and then it cuts back and the knife and fork are neatly in the middle of the plate.
Oh, that's funny.
So obviously the editing was a little bit of a miss on that one. They must have shot the scene a couple times and used the wrong cuts.
I think food, drink, and cigarettes are the three biggest issues with continuity, because they're always like different levels of smoked, and then also the waters or the drink is different levels of drunk, and then obviously the food, different stages of eaten.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing for continuity if you need to sort of do many takes.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of other references to it in other scenes that we didn't actually point out because we didn't notice, like where the drink is gone or it's in somebody's hand and then it's on the table. Yeah, it's no big deal. It's just worth mentioning.
Yep.
And thank you to Killian for pointing that out for us. So now we're going down by the riverside, isn't it? Down to the club, and this scene opens with a great shot of the van pulling up outside the club, and we see both Del and Rodney look at the sign that says, "The Down by the Riverside Club welcomes Tony Angelino, the singing dustman." The big yellow poster outside. Del looks very pleased, and the look on Rodney's face suggests that he's not as pleased, and it makes the audience laugh. So this was filmed on the evening of Tuesday, the 23rd of October 1990 at the Courage Western Social Club, which is also in Bristol. And we see that Rodney and Del enter the main bar area. We get our first shot of Tony on the stage. So Tony is singing the song "I'll Never Fall in Love Again" here. He sings a few Tom Jones style songs in this scene, but this song was actually written by Lonnie Donegan in 1962. I'd say that Tony Angelino is parodying the Tom Jones, Elvis Presley style here, especially all the screaming women in the audience are supposed to indicate this. Del is impressed by the audience that Tony has garnered here, and Rodney has a completely different view.
He's bloody good, isn't he?
Good? Del, he's bloody awful.
So there's quite the debate here between Del and Rodney. Rodney does not think that he's a good match for Raquel, and Del most definitely does think that he is. Del makes a good point here that Raquel is earning money for the opportunity, and they all have to bring in a little bit to keep the flat going, which I think is a fair point, but Raquel doesn't ever bring in any money again.
It's also meant as a dig, though, isn't it, towards Rodney? I think that's the reason he says it in that moment.
I think so, yeah, because I think Rodney's always just trying to sort of make Del not do the things he wants to do, but Del has to take these opportunities. I mean, honestly, being offered 600 quid to offer this cabaret, to provide this cabaret is a great opportunity for Del. He doesn't necessarily do it the best way, but he certainly shouldn't have walked away from the opportunity. Definitely not. That's a lot of money, yeah.
It is a lot of money, yeah.
So Del establishes here what we are teased in the last scene. Rodney is now his part-time road manager, and his duties do not extend beyond sweeping up and making the tea.
And am I allowed to voice an opinion on repertoire, presentation, arrangement, interpretation?
No.
Still, Rodney does try a couple more times to talk Del out of this. He claims that Tony is too old-fashioned, but Del makes another good point that there is a market for middle-of-the-road music, or guff like this. And I think an important point here would be that people don't actually need to pay the money to see Tony. So when he says they've all paid, they haven't paid. They just walked in, right?
I don't know. There may have been a cover on the door. We didn't see if Del and Rodney paid anything to go in, but from my understanding, a lot of places had a cover on the door, like a couple of quid at least.
I don't know. Yeah, that's true. We don't know that. So Del is supplying the cabaret for Eugene's mom's party, but they also do not need to advertise and sell tickets for that event. So it doesn't really matter who would pay to see it.
No, exactly. All those people are going to the birthday party, whether or not there's a cabaret. So it doesn't really matter either way.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. I think the only reason it might matter is if Del wanted to continue making money from the the Tony and Raquel partnership in the future, which, does he need to? No. So it doesn't really matter.
No, he does want to, though. I think he does genuinely think Tony's talented and he likes Tony until he finds out his problem.
So he says here, because Del has his moment of visualization here where he steps forward and does a few cultural comparisons, but he's basically making it sound like he wants to make Raquel and Tony a partnership that he's going to market. And we get Rodney in the background making the sarcastic jokes.
I can see it now. Raquel and Tony. They could be the new carpenters.
Or plumbers, or brickies.
Samuel and Cher.
Jazz and Dave.
Rennie and Renato.
Mills and Boone.
Yeah.
So It does say in the script here that Del is not supposed to hear what Rodney says in the background. I think it's obvious that he does hear, but he doesn't listen because he doesn't get angry that Rodney is ridiculing him. So
I mean, it's possible that Del doesn't even realise that Rodney's ridiculing him because things like that often go over his head. So
yeah.
He probably thinks all those people that Rodney said are great.
Yeah, he might not realise that. That's true. We get a nice mention of Chaz and Dave here, I thought.
Yes.
Which is a nice callback to John Sullivan's original choice for the theme tune, and they sang the Margate song at the end of... Well, they didn't write that song for the episode, but they recorded a special version of their Margate song for the end credits of the Jolly Boys outing.
Behave yourself, Uncle Al, or you won't be going.
So just at the end of this little section, we learn that Rodney has drawn up a contract for Del. And now this is a new thing for Rodney, and it's supposed to be to show that he's better at stuff now that he's had a real job, I guess. They made him more business savvy because he's had that managerial experience. And he says he's not a lawyer, but Del is very pleased with the contract. And they head backstage to find Tony. Any notes here, dude?
I said it's a shame we don't get to see Mickey Pierce in the Down by the Riverside Club, since that's what I think most of us associate the Down by the Riverside Club with, thanks to Mickey mentioning it in Yuppie Love. A shame about his absence in this episode.
Yeah, it would have been really cool if Trigger had been there, because Trigger actually invites Del. He says, do you want to go down there later?
Oh yeah, that's true.
And I would have loved to have seen Trigger with Tony, because they are supposed to work together.
Trigger probably would have also loved Tony's performance. I just want to apologise to everyone listening to this. I have been a bit sick this past couple of weeks, and my laugh is very old smoker cough sounding at the moment, so I apologise for that. I said it looks a lot nicer than it was described in Yuppie Love, the Down by the Riverside Club, which we just said in the last scene. I think Tony is a pretty good singer, actually. He's got a lot of power and a lot of showmanship. His costume, I think, is the dated thing, and maybe the songs that he chose. But actually, I'd be very entertained watching him. I think he's good. Even before he, can't pronounce his R's, I think he's an entertaining singer. So I don't know why Rodney has such a downer on him.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was a kid, because Rodney's attitude, and Rodney's usually the voice of reason, I used to think that Tony Angelino was bad.
Yeah.
But now as an adult, I'm like, obviously Philip Pope is a really good singer because he is a singer.
Yeah.
And Tony Angelino is not a bad singer.
No.
It's just the fact that he's cheesy and he's like overdoing the movements and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the showmanship, the costume. It just doesn't suit. It doesn't go with Raquel either. I think this is the other big issue. On his own, in a place like the Down by the Riverside Club, like, this works. It's great. But then Raquel is a lot more demure and kind of, reserved. And then Tony comes on being all larger than life. It just doesn't match at all. But
that's right. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I said, why would Rodney agree to work for Del again? Who knows? Other than we have to have him do that.
Because he had no choice.
Yeah, he always has a choice. He should know better than to work for Del. I like the mention of Joan Denver.
Oh, yeah.
I actually really like John Denver's stuff, so I thought it was quite funny that Del got that wrong. Also, at the end of this part of the scene, I don't know if you noticed, the drummer behind Tony looks really happy with Tony's performance after he finishes. I was watching him and he's like really smiley and like nodding, and like he just looks, because the other musicians don't, but the drummer, watch him, he's like, very good.
I didn't notice that, yeah.
That was all I had for that scene.
And I forgot to add in a little bit here about the song Delilah. I totally forgot to do the research, so I'm looking it up right now just so that I get this information right. So Delilah is obviously a song by Tom Jones, and it was first recorded in December 1967, with the lyrics being written by Barry Mason and the music by Les Reed, who also contributed to the title and the theme of the song. And it earned Reed and Mason the 1968 Ivor Novello Award for Best Song, musically and lyrically.
Wow.
Everybody knows this song, right?
I probably the same as Fran. I only know it, or I knew it from this episode of Only Fools and Horses. I don't think I heard it before this. I can't honestly say it's something I've listened to a lot. I tend to not really be a big fan of Tom Jones's stuff. It's great that the song got so much recognition, and obviously it's very entertaining to hear it here in this episode.
It's not a famous song in other countries, because there's a song that you must have heard it by a group called Fastball. It's called The Way.
You need to sing it to me.
It's a directly rip-off of this. Well, you wouldn't know it, but it's exactly like Delilah. So basically the tune is exactly like Delilah, and I heard it and I was like, my husband really likes it, and I was like, this song sounds exactly like Delilah, and he's like, what's Delilah? And like I played him Delilah, and he's like, I've never heard that song in my life. And I was like, yeah, so I guess this song did not extend across the pond, as Americans always say, because it's not well known here.
That's actually interesting that Delilah is used quite a bit, because I think of Plain White Tees hit in like 2007.
Oh, you mean the name Delilah?
Hey there, Delilah, what's it like in New York City? That song. Yeah, so it's weird how some names get overused in songs.
So now we are in the back of the Down by the Riverside Club, the dressing room scene. So let's start here by talking a little bit more about Philip Pope, because there's quite a lot to say about him. And these are the first moments that we really meet him in this episode. And this scene backstage here gives us the impression that he has a major fan group chasing his character around. So he's a pretty prominent character in this episode.
Bit over the top, actually, those extras.
I thought they were pretty realistic.
Tony.
I love how the two women at the back have a little fight right before the scene cuts. I was like, the woman pushes the woman.
I just wouldn't have thought that someone this minor would have had women fighting over them for the autographs in the backstage.
They do.
I don't know. I've never seen that. But then I've never been on a stage where I've had fans follow me afterwards.
Okay, so there is a credited lady on the end credits of this episode, and her name is Lynn Langridge. I don't know which woman she is in this episode, but she's the only lady credited for the episode. And it actually says that she's in 2 episodes of Only Fools and Horses. The second is Fatal Extraction, where she plays a character called Vi. Can you remember who that is?
Oh God, is that like... I'm trying to think in Fatal Extraction. Is that one of the rioters or someone at the dentist?
It wouldn't be in the riot, would it? Because there's too many people. I wondered, is it a lady from the dentist? Is it somebody that they talk to in the calf? I'm just highlighting it. Because her name is on the credits, but I don't know which lady she is, and I don't know who she is in Fatal Extraction. So if anybody knows. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So back to Philip Pope. So as we mentioned in the trivia, Philip Pope is not just an actor, he's a musician and a composer, and he has a ton of credits in both areas on IMDb. Now, as we mentioned before, Spitting Image being a pretty huge one, and he was in another 80s sketch show called Who Dares Wins. He also did a lot of voice work for shows like Round the Bend, but his work in composing is quite astonishing. His very first credit is for Not the 9 O'Clock News back in 1979, and his career now spans almost 50 years.
Wow.
He also worked with other notable Only Fools and Horses actors, such as Michael Fenton Stevens, Alan from The Unlucky Winner Is, on the TV series KYTV. So he is basically just a lifelong entertainment industry person. And take a look if you ever get time through all of his credits. It's pretty crazy. We mentioned this before, but his real life wife, Rosie, cannot pronounce her R's. So it says in Lovely Jubbly that when he first received the script in the mail, they read it together. And his wife said, "Is this some kind of joke?" She didn't say it like that. I just said it like that because of the Friday the 14th.
Yeah, I know.
But that is what she said, apparently. So this was actually Pope's first studio scene. A note in the Lovely Jubbly book regarding this scene specifically here. Pope says, "What was interesting to me about that scene was how David Jason took control. I'd been familiar with David's stage and radio work, and I can remember thinking I was in good hands when he started choreographing the scene with the director. David clearly knew his stagecraft and how to make the jokes work and how the timing would work with the camera, particularly the business with the sausage codpiece, which Tony Angelino actually hands to Del Boy. And I noticed this in the script, because the script does give pretty good details about the way that Tony removes his costume pieces, but it is not exactly the same as it played out. So they must have got that script and worked hard on all those movements. So yeah, that's pretty cool. But it wasn't filmed in front of a live studio audience, because I can't see how they could have, because with the reveals and stuff, it's the way the camera cuts that makes some of the reveals work. So
yes,
it wouldn't have been as funny if they'd done that in front of a live studio audience. So a first note in the book about this scene is that they had originally planned to film it at the actual Courage Club, being the Down by the Riverside Club, but it did end up being a studio shoot. And Pope says in Lovely Jubbly that they were instructed to leave gaps for laughter as they did the dialogue. So we've discussed this many times about how they, about how the audience laughter drowns out lines, but they were told here that they had to leave gaps for laughter. I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, smart.
Now, obviously, they'll never get it perfect, but they did do pretty well here, because I never knew that this was pre-recorded. I always used to think...
No.
this was a live shot.
Yeah, I had no reason not to think that.
So let's go through the scene breakdown. Del and Rodney are waiting in the back to track down Tony, and Del has strategically folded the contract over. So while Rodney's saying there's no way he'll sign it, Del hands it to Tony as if it's just an autograph, and without looking at it at all, he signs it. And then Del just pulls the contract open, and he says, "Now let's do the viso." Very clever. So
yeah, I agree.
He approaches Tony and tells him that he has some bookings for him, and Tony ushers both Del and Rodney into the dressing room amidst the crowd of adoring fans. And this is where the two little ladies fight over the door.
Tony,
can I have your autograph?
Yeah. Chicks.
So Tony closes the door to keep the masses out, and Del goes ahead and starts his sales spiel. And as Del starts to talk, Tony gradually begins to transform as he removes various pieces of his costume. So this scene is pretty visual, honestly, but we'll do our very best to go through and describe it. So first, Tony removes his shiny shirt to reveal that he is covered in a wash-off fake tan. So he has like a big V fake tan. So Del continues to talk to Tony as he removes his boots and immediately shrinks to the same height as Del. And as he removes each item, for some reason, he hands it to Del, and Del then hands it to Rodney. So Tony removes his wig and looks like a completely different person.
Yeah.
But the next thing that he removes has the audience in stitches.
A Starlight, eh? Oh, I don't get many bookings.
Really?
Have you got a manager, Tony?
No.
Well, you have now, son. Me.
So all of this laughter is being caused by the fact that Tony removed a large salami from the front of his trousers. And Rodney, who was distracted by smoking a cigarette and did not realise what he was taking for Del, takes the salami in his hand and looks confused until he realises what it is. And it's the way that he throws it to the floor.
Yeah.
To me, that is so hilarious.
But it's so gross that he wipes his hand on his suit. Like, how is that better? It's like, that's still on
What
you.
else are you going to do, though?
Find a towel? Anything? I mean, wiping it on your own suit. Ugh. Gross.
So Tony has his head in the sink and he cannot hear how disgusted Rodney is, but Del manages to cover it up anyway.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Del is so wrapped up in his sales pitch here that he misses all the red flags. Tony kind of asks Del ominously, has nobody told him anything about him then? And dismisses it when Del asks if there's anything he should know. And Tony is also not thrilled to hear that the gig is tomorrow night, but as soon as he hears how much he's getting paid, he kind of gets over that.
Yeah.
Now, the second red flag is when Del says,
And I'm going to give Rodney, your road manager, a list of the classic hits I want you to rehearse.
No, there's only a few songs I can sing, Del.
Well, you see, that's why you don't get any bookings.
No, it's not that. It's because
Because of what? Eh?
Oh, nothing.
I would just like to point out to anybody that doesn't know this, which is no one, that if someone starts to tell you something and then says, nothing.
Nothing.
You probably do want to know what that thing was.
Yeah. Totally agree. And also Del is not stupid about things like this. And Rodney also is not stupid about things like this. So it's amazing that neither of them sort of pressed him on that.
Yeah. I do like the fact that they at least put in a little bit of a hint that he tried, because it's a shame, honestly, because Tony does seem like a fairly innocent character in this. This is where he isn't innocent, because if he just told the truth there. But obviously he had dollar signs in his eyes. I mean, pound signs in his eyes.
Well, to be fair, we'll talk about this obviously in the next scene, but in the morning rehearsal, that was the time to pull the plug, because they do know what the problem is. It's ridiculous that they went ahead with the songs.
Well, yeah. If Del had been there, would he have pulled the plug? We don't know. Because it's very hard to find songs without R's in them, but it sounded like Tony knew what songs he could sing already, so yeah.
I was going to say, Tony would have been able to suggest a load of songs that they could have sang that he knows he can sing, or change the lyrics of. Yeah.
How can I change the lyrics? Oh, we'll come to that later. So Del overlooks all the red flags. He just tells Tony that he will be completely straight with him, no small print. And at the very end of the scene, a completely different looking Tony asks Del if he wants him to sign the contract. And Del says,
No, it's all right, son. You've already signed it, look. Lovely jubbly.
Tony is left looking rather confused. And I'll throw this in here right before you do your notes, because in the script it continues here. There's a snippet from the end of the scene that's cut where Tony goes to sign a fan's autograph, outside the door, and she elbows him out the way and goes, "Get out my way. Where's Tony? Tony!" And they all go off looking for Tony. So that would have shown that they didn't recognize who he was after he took his costume off, which totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think Tony would know that. But anyway, any notes?
First of all, can anyone just walk into the backstage of a venue like this? Because from what I remember in places that I've performed or things that I've gone to watch like bands perform in, they don't just let anyone go in the backstage. So it's a bit strange. But maybe the Down by the Roadside Club doesn't have very good security. I love how the costume is stripped away, like to reveal how Tony really looks. I think the way that that's done is amazing. And imagine taking out your fake penis and handing it to your new agent. I mean, why would you do that? That would like put the new agent off, I would have thought.
Put you right off.
It's pretty gross to do that to anybody. It would put you right off. I'm surprised that Del didn't ask Tony how much he wanted rather than offering the money up front, because as a freelancer, I know that the majority of the time when someone offers me work, they leave the payments off the ad and then they ask me what my fee is.
Yeah.
So it's quite unusual to do it this way and be like, this is what I'm paying you. Because that isn't a small amount of the money. So I'm surprised Del didn't go as low as he possibly could. That seems like a trick that Del wouldn't have missed.
Yeah, and actually just along those lines, because I forgot to mention this, but did you always think that when Del pulls that face after Tony says the most I've ever been paid is 50 quid, did you think he was pulling that face because Tony handed him the towel? Because it says in the script it's major disappointment that Del couldn't have got away with offering him 50 quid. And Rodney's smug face is laughing at the fact that Del has to pay double what he would have had to pay.
I just think that Del was really annoyed that he offered him 100 quid when he could have got away with paying him 50. I definitely think it was
so
that.
You always knew that then? Because
Yes.
I always thought it was because he had took the towel and got the fake towel all over his hands.
I think that Tony coming clean here would have actually been beneficial to him, because it was obvious that Del would find out about his problem. There's no way that he wouldn't have. And it obviously sort of damaged the long-term potential of this contract by not telling him up front. Because if he told him up front, he could have been like, oh, okay, oh, you can only sing. He might have admittedly gone straight away like, oh, never mind then, we're not going to do this. But he might have gone, oh, we'll find some songs, you know, because Del was desperate and the show was tomorrow night. So I think that it's a shame that Tony wasn't just upfront about it.
Yeah.
But I also had a question about this particular problem, like speech impediments, because I don't even know if this episode would get made today with this as like the premise that they're sort of making fun of someone's speech impediments. I don't really know if that would be too much of a sensitive topic.
I don't think it would.
Probably not, right?
I've heard people write this episode off or like say, you know, it's not funny because it's making fun of a speech impediment. So I don't believe it would get made now. No.
Which is a shame, because it is, I think it's well done. And like you said, we do get a bit of sort of the realism of the situation from Tony's character in the final scene when he's talking about all the problems that this has caused for him. So yes, it's done for the laughs, obviously, in the crying song, but it is addressed as a real issue at some point in the episode as well. So I don't know. I think you can have both, personally.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we're talking about a different time. It wasn't a problem to make fun of it in the time because that's just how it was. And for anybody who's young now and thinks like, how could any of us found this funny? We did. We all found it absolutely hilarious. And clearly Philip Pope's wife, who actually does suffer from, I don't know if I should even say suffer, she has roticism, which is what it's called. She thought it was a joke at first, as in like, is this a joke on me because I have this?
Yeah.
He went ahead and did it, so clearly his wife wasn't offended by it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe people's sort of tolerance was a bit different as well for different things back then. But because I was thinking about this when I was watching the episode. There's an episode of Frasier where they make fun of this exact thing as well. They have a stand-in for Roz, I believe it is, in one of the episodes, and he's like, Dr. Quain?
Yeah.
Which is the same problem, right? So yeah, it was clearly a sort of a common gag in 90s TV shows.
I mean, any kind of thing, like any disability, any kind of impediment was just a free game to make fun of in the 90s. It's not a thing, like you said, that would get made today. I actually put all of my notes about this in the last scene, but I'll just say this now because we're talking about it. I tried to look it up to see like how common it is in adults now. And maybe because I live in the US, and maybe this is the case in the UK too, but it might not be. All I got was a ton of ads for speech therapists. And it was mostly saying that it's, you know, a problem that starts in children that most kids get past. because they grow out of it. And it's just all I got was a bunch of speech therapists. So I couldn't actually find any statistics that I believe are accurate on how many adults live with it, because it's like quite often now they encourage adults to see speech therapists to correct it.
Yeah.
There's tons of people who do speak without their R's, and Jonathan Ross is still the obvious example, who actually played it up and became part of who he is and his TV personality.
Yeah, I think that's the trick, isn't it, with anything that, you know, maybe isn't seen as normal by society. If you embrace it and you sort of make it a part of you because it is a part of you, then I think most people will accept it. It's when you kind of highlight the differences all the time, like you find the need to be like, I'm different because this.
Yeah.
I think that's when you get like, yeah, it's always a point of conversation because you're making it a point of conversation all the time.
And honestly, yeah, let us know if you have roticism or if you know anyone who does, and whether they find this funny or whether they don't. I don't know. I can't speak from that point of view. I can only say that we were in stitches when we watched it when we were kids. I still think it's funny now, but mostly because of the way that it is. I don't think speech impediments are funny in general. Like, I'm not out there trying to make fun of people who can't pronounce things the same way that most people do.
Oh my God. I mean, living where I live.
Because there's millions of different accents.
I was going to say,
yeah.
I mean, God, I encounter a million different ways of people speaking every day in my job. I mean, where I live, you know, in Asia, obviously there's multiple accents all over the place. And yeah, I think it becomes a part of your life. But maybe, you know, if someone hadn't ever heard an accent before and then they heard it, they'd be like, oh, like it would take them aback. I don't know. I guess the world is a lot smaller now with the internet, so I feel like everyone's kind of exposed to everything a lot more now than they used to be. But yeah, maybe back in the 90s, people, you know, before the internet, people maybe hadn't come across this condition very often, and it was something that was very new to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Who
knows? Was that it for your notes?
That was it.
Okay, so we go briefly back to the Nag's Head here, and we fade into the next scene. We see Raquel and Albert are together at the Nag's Head, and Rodney and Del enter in the background. Rodney is musing over how different Tony looked without his costume.
I can't believe that was the same bloke.
No, well, I mean, they're all just costume props, aren't they? They all wear them. I mean, you don't think that Mr. Spock's ears are his own, do you? No. Come, we'll go and tell Raquel. Raquel, sweetheart, hello, darling. Found him. I found your singing partner.
God.
Yeah, he's terrific, isn't he, Rodney, eh?
Yeah.
You got to see him to believe him, haven't you, Rodney, eh?
Yeah.
I know, I do think the way that Raquel says that is really funny.
It's really funny.
Why.
It's like she knows the worst already. Oh, God.
Yeah. And just as you said earlier, as Rodney's agreeing, he's wiping his hand again on his sleeve.
Yeah, I said, didn't he have a chance to wash his hands? Like, I hope he washed his hands since he left the nightclub, but it implies there that he didn't.
I think he was just remembering how gross it was, that's all.
Yeah.
I'm sure he washed his hands.
Ugh.
Albert asks Del where he found Tony, and Rodney is far too honest here when he says that he works with Trigger on the council. And Raquel is not pleased, but Del does try to liken him to Sean Connery, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Now we move on to that scene we were discussing earlier. Mike and Boise call Del over into the corner table. And the script actually says here that they nudge each other in a here he comes manner because they are planning to wind him up. So again, just from that, we don't know how much of what they tell him is actually true.
But it is all true, isn't it? It turns out that it's all true.
Well, we know that Eugene is who he is, and we know that he owns the Starlight rooms, but we don't know for sure anything about the stringing him up to the door or whatever, nailing him to the door. We don't know.
I feel like Eric's reaction in the next scene is very clear that it is very true, because he doesn't seem worried at all that Tony and Raquel get no applause after the performance. He's smiling and laughing because he knows Del's going to get the blame. So I think it is all true.
Yeah, that would be in the true argument, but the fact that Mike and Boise laugh so much after the end of this makes it seem like they were kidding.
I don't know. It kind of reminds me of Danger UXT with it's tragic. Like they do seem to find the prospect of Del getting beaten up or blown up quite funny.
That is a really good point, yeah. So let us know how you interpret it. I think you're probably right, because at least Del does know who Eugene is, so he knows he's a heavy and knows that he would do this stuff, so... Yeah, anyway, Boise helps us to learn why Del is in court tomorrow, so this answers our question. He's in for fly pitching. Not that we couldn't have probably guessed that, but at least we know now. Boise asks about Raquel's pregnancy here, and this leads to another rather classic line by Rodney, which gets a little bit of applause.
Then there's the pregnancy itself, Del. That can be hell. Yeah. That can be 9 months of pure hell.
Yeah, knowing your missus, Mike, I can believe it.
Of course, I was lucky. Marlene gave birth after only 8 months.
Well, they say it's quicker by tube, don't they?
Yeah, I say great line for that one as well. I actually have a question here about that line, because Del says, well, I'm not surprised with knowing your missus, Mike. Del knows Mike's missus?
Yeah, that's pointed out in lots of continuity error comment sections.
Right.
He didn't. I always just figure he's saying that as a joke. He didn't know Mike's wife because they were apparently broke up back in '73, which was way before Del met Mike. So he didn't.
Well, this is the other question I have. Mike has a child?
Well, he doesn't, does he? Because somebody else...
But then how does Mike talk to Mike's talking about, like, the months of pregnancy are pure hell, as though he's speaking about his own wife?
Yeah, but don't forget that she got pregnant while he was on the cruise, so it's
That's
not
true,
his kid.
but even so, like, they're not mentioned at all that Mike has a child, or even a fake child that he didn't know wasn't his.
At the time, he thought his wife got pregnant by him, but then she probably left and said, oh, that's not your kid. I know. I mean, it isn't impossible that Mike has a kid. He just never talks about, is it?
Maybe it's Neris.
Neris. Neris is his kid, or she had
I don't know, maybe, yeah. His kid, yes.
Well, since you mentioned Neris, there's Crystal in this scene. Is she ever appear again, the barmaid?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't even remember her in this scene,
Well,
actually.
he just calls over to her. Crystal, get some more drinks over here. Yeah. I said in an earlier episode that we don't get any more barmaids after Neris, but that's not true. Crystal. And it's possible that we get more that I just hadn't remembered.
Oh,
so.
I miss Maureen.
Anyway, Crystal doesn't have any lines. She just is behind the bar.
Yeah.
So there you go. So now Del brings up the fact that they've been to the Down by the Riverside Club to see Tony, and this is where the wind-up begins. Boise wonders if Trigger could recommend him to Eric, and Del realizes that he's talking about Eric down at Starlight Rooms, and he gets sucked into the wind-up.
Well, didn't you hear?
What?
Eugene owns the Starlight Room.
No. It's Eric. Eric owns the Starlight Rooms, doesn't he?
No, Eugene bought him out 3 months ago.
Yes, there was no boardroom negotiations, no offer or counter-offer. Eugene gave Eric 2 choices. Take it or I'll nail you to the door. And Eric, realising he was dealing with a man who puts out death sentences on Muslims, took it.
Anyway, tomorrow night is Eugene's mum's 82nd birthday, so he's having a party down at the Starlight Rooms for her and all the nasties.
No, Mike. No, listen, it's Eric. Eric's down there at the Starlight Rooms, isn't he?
Yeah. Eric is only the manager now, though, Del.
And part of Eric's managerial duties is booking the cabaret. But every time he books a cabaret Eugene doesn't like, he promptly gets nailed to the nearest door.
But he come up with a brilliant solution. He started employing the services of the local entertainment agents. So, if Eugene gets displeased, he takes his wrath out on the agents. Anyway, the agents all held a meeting at the local convalescence home and decided to boycott the Starlight Rooms.
So, unless Eric finds a mug to supply the cabaret for Eugene's mum's party, B&Q will be selling another door.
So, one note before I continue, I read that the line about putting out death sentences on Muslims is cut out of the episodes when they're broadcast now. So let us know, because I haven't seen that. It's on my DVD, but I'm guessing it's cut out now.
That doesn't surprise me.
Del and Rodney move away in shock here, standing at the bar. Rodney desperately tries to snake out of the issue. Del tries to say that he can expand his role, but Rodney is having none of it. He says he will just sweep up and make the tea. So this is very reminiscent of the old Del and Rodney antics, where Del's like, we have supplied the cabaret. Yeah. And Rodney's like, no, I supplied nothing. And then I just really like that, because it is like bringing us back to the old ways of things.
Yeah, agreed.
Any other notes?
So just, again, a question about the plot. So Eric hired Del earlier this same day. So I'm assuming after Eric hired Del, he went and spoke to Boise and Mike about the situation, because this is implied that Eric is still looking. He's got 24 hours to find a cabaret, but actually Eric hired Del that morning. So all this stuff about the boycott and everything would have happened yesterday. But then Mike and Boise obviously want to bring it up to Del because they know he's already been hired. I'm assuming that Eric spoke to Mike and Boise after he hired Del to ask them to tell Del all this stuff, because if they hadn't told Del would be none the wiser about any of this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to have played out. I would say that it sounded like Boise thought they didn't have a cabaret, so he's just saying that because he knows Del's been hired. That's what you think?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, because why would they laugh like when Del's walking away if they didn't know it was affecting Del? Like, they know that Del's the one who's been hired, and that's why they're telling him this, to sort of plant that fear.
I suppose an easy explanation would be as soon as Eric got Del to sign the contract, he called Boise and it was like, yeah, so that's an explanation. Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what I think probably did happen. But if anyone has any different interpretation on that, let us know. But yeah, I just said Mike and Boise, again, taking joy from the fact that Del could get the crap beaten out of him by Eugene McCarthy. Not a very nice thing to do for your friend.
It's not, but yeah, again, it's pretty in keeping with, like you said, different times that Boise and Mike have laughed at Del's misfortune. So, yeah.
Exactly. That's all I had for that scene.
Okay, so we are back at the Starlight rooms and we start off in the dressing room with Raquel getting ready for the performance. So now it's tomorrow night already. So this is actually just a short scene in the dressing room with just Raquel and Rodney. We see Raquel in the mirror and she's almost ready for the show. Rodney comes in behind her and he speaks to her through the mirror, and we can already hear that there's a big problem. So Del has not arrived at the club, and Rodney has phoned the flat, and neither of them know where he is currently. Rodney says, or perhaps muses, that maybe he's still in court. Raquel lets us know that it's 9 o'clock. So this scene is really just a teaser, because now Raquel says,
I can't go through with this.
Why not?
What do you mean, why not? You were at rehearsals this morning, you know what happened. Tony's got a problem.
So Rodney is aware. Rodney was at rehearsal. Raquel is aware. It really is just us and Del that don't know what this problem is at this point. And Rodney tells Raquel that she has to go through with it for Del because of the threat of Eugene McCarthy. But Raquel tells Rodney to go and tell Eugene that the cabaret is off, and Rodney plays the roadie card again.
No, I'm just a roadie. Sweep up and make the tea. That was my instruction. Do you fancy a cup of tea?
No, I don't.
Do you want anything swept up?
No.
Well, it's me finishing.
It is really funny in this episode how many times Rodney just says that he sweeps up and makes the tea.
Yeah.
I didn't do a count, but there's probably at least 7 or 8, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's because Del told him to not have any responsibilities. Like, do you want to do anything? No. All right, then, fine. I'll just sweep and make the tea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that he did that, because obviously he would have gotten a lot of trouble with Del if he hadn't. So
Yes, but if he had been allowed to voice his opinion on interpretation, presentation, and all of that, they wouldn't have had this problem in the first place. They would have had a better singer, or not necessarily a better singer, but
well, yeah. I mean, that's okay. So I already said in the last scene that why couldn't they have changed it that morning? But even if they couldn't change it, did they really have to open the show with a song where it was so obvious because of the way that he sang? Like, again, it couldn't have been more obvious in any other song. I think that's probably why they chose Crying as the song for him to sing. But like, I know that she talks about the other songs that they sang, like Congratulations. Like, that song, they could have got away with it. Probably they would have been singing it at the same time. But to open with a song that gives Tony a massive solo and a big sort of crying, like, it's just, could they not have at least changed the order of the songs to make it a bit less, oh dear?
Well, it sounds like every song that Del chose, it was almost as if he went through and chose all the most prominent songs. So I don't think it would have mattered, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the opening song just makes it even more pronounced. But again, for us, the audience, that's brilliant. That's exactly what we want.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
That's all I had.
Okay, so now we're in the Starlight Room's main room, stage area, and as mentioned earlier, these scenes were shot in the Studio Club on Monday the 22nd of October 1990, and it does mention in the production diary provided to us by Mike Jones that they called for 103 extras to play punters in nightclub. So that's actually quite a busy set, to be honest. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So the scene starts with Rodney standing alone at a table in the crowd, and fortunately we do see that Del has arrived. He rushes up, and before Rodney can explain anything, he launches into a huge tirade about why he was so late, including Sinbad, who is actually Albert, getting on the bus with Del's wallet while he was locked up in the cell waiting to pay his fine. And because of this rant, Rodney is unable to relay the message to Del about what the problem is. He tries to tell him again, and then Eugene shows up behind Del.
Oh, hello, Eugene. Very, very nice to see you.
Eric informs me you're supplying tonight's cabaret. Hope it's good, Del. It's my old mum's birthday. I don't want to see her disappointed.
This is quite funny. It goes back to what we said in an earlier episode about how the mother figure in these kind of crime-oriented families are very, like, revered. So this little 81-year-old woman is going to decide Del's fate here, which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. That's so funny.
We mentioned this earlier in the trivia, but Eugene was played wonderfully here by Roger Blake. Now, he was also a pretty big name in Spitting Image, along with Philip Pope. He was also in The Bill, London's Burning, and he played the role of Noel Coward in Red Dwarf episode Meltdown, which I had to add in here just for myself. But here's a little interesting one for you and Fran that I added in, because you might not know this, and it probably is just for you and Fran, because I don't know if any of our listeners are going to know what this is. But he was a voice actor for several voices in the video game Simon the Sorcerer and Simon the Sorcerer 2.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to know who he played?
Oh my God. Well, I know Simon, Chris Barry played Simon, didn't he, in that computer game?
Well, I only just found that out myself when I was looking up Simon the Sorcerer, but
Yeah.
now I know that it's obviously Chris Barry.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like Rimmer from Red Dwarf.
Did he play the Swampling or something like this?
No, he was three different characters in the original Simon the Sorcerer. He did the voice of the Druid, the Owl, and the Runt. And in Simon the Sorcerer 2, he was Calypso, Sordid, and the Runt.
Oh, he's Sordid.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he did all those voices for that game. So let us know if you played Simon the Sorcerer when you were a kid.
Oh yeah, love Simon the Sorcerer, Monkey Island, all the point and click adventure games. A lot of fun.
Yeah, very, very popular in our era of childhood. So back down to earth here at the Starlight Rooms. And again, it appears that no time after Eugene steps away for Rodney to explain the problem again before Eric takes the stage to introduce Raquel and Tony.
I mean, would it really have mattered if Rodney had told him the problem? It's not like he was going to run over and be like, stop the show, quick, we need to do some different songs.
It doesn't matter, and obviously, because Rodney could still have told him, there was no reason why any of this would stop him whispering, by the way, Del.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is just for showmanship. So Eric firstly pays his respect and wishes happy birthday to the very important Mrs. McCarthy. And Del and Rodney sing.
Happy birthday!
It's such a stupid thing, but it's so funny.
I don't know why this is so funny to us. I think anytime anybody gets cut off mid-word in a song for some reason, to me, makes me laugh so much. It's kind of like a...
Or it reminds me of Mono.
Yeah.
Oh!
I always have to tell this story, so I'll just tell it anyway, that I had a real-life mono moment when I was a kid. And it traumatized me. I was so upset. There was a song in school, and I have no idea how it went, other than that I know you had to yell, mango, mango, over and over. And the whole class went silent, and I went, ma. And I think I was so mortified that I did that, I probably cried, knowing me.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely done it. I can't think off the top of my head of any instance, but yeah, it's normal actually for Happy Birthday. You'd think that you sing the whole thing, like it is weird. They all just sing, and everybody else knows to stop after one time, and Del and Rodney are the only ones that carry on. But I think the funny part is how confidently they do it. I think that's what's funny about it.
Yeah. Happy birthday, and then the way they both look at each other so confused. Yeah. Eric reels off a load of crap that he got from Del, which is very clever, really, because honestly, in those days, how would anybody be able to prove otherwise?
No one would know.
Their act would actually be really good for Vegas. And the audience seems very impressed, and Eric finishes introducing
Raquel and Tony!
The lights go low, and we hear the rising piano music with the beginning bars of Roy Orbison's Crying. So a few bits here about this. Philip Pope says in the lovely Jubbly book, and we touched upon this in the trivia, that the music and vocals were all pre-recorded in the studio just outside Henley, and he thinks they recorded the music for the ballroom scene first. But then when they actually started filming the scenes in the Starlight room, for some reason it just seemed easier to do it live. So they went ahead and sang it live to the backing track during filming. And Tessa Peake Jones says in the official Inside Storybook that it was a bit nerve-wracking in the nightclub because a lot of the supporting artists that were there were club acts themselves. So she says she was very aware of singing Crying rather badly in front of an audience who were sitting there being paid to look fairly bored, who actually were bored because they'd seen everything shot loads of times over. And she was very aware of their critical eyes, but she just had to get on with it. She says, I started very nervously and hit none of the right notes, but I think I got better as the day went on. I did a couple of bum notes, though, which Tony had to cut away from when it came to editing. That's Tony Dow, not Tony Angelino. He disguised them by cutting to Del and Rodney at the bar and by turning the singing down and turning their voices up a little bit. She says, I was just too out of tune, and Tony said, there are a couple of times where I just can't hide it.
It's so funny. It's almost like she's like Raquel. She's got the same nerves that Raquel had in that exact situation.
That's true. She is quite a lot like Raquel. Yeah. So then a little bit here about the song Crying, which was written by Roy Orbison and Joe Melson for Orbison's third studio album in 1962, which was also called Crying. The bloody album's called Crying. It reached number 2 in the US charts, and the 1978 Don McLean cover reached number 1 in the UK in 1980. Now, I don't know how much you know about Roy Orbison himself.
I don't know anything except for bloody Roy Orbison here.
Yeah, I was going to say, because of the multiple references to Roy Orbison throughout Only Fools and Horses, I would say John Sullivan was probably a fan. He died young at the age of 52 from a heart attack, but he had a really tragic life. His wife died in a motorcycle accident at the age of 25, and just 2 years later, while he was playing in Birmingham in England, he got the news that his 2 oldest sons were killed in a house fire when his house burned to the ground in Tennessee.
Oh my God.
He had a really tragic life. Crying went on to have quite the legacy, though, as we mentioned in the trivia. There have been a lot of cover versions, and Sullivan probably thought long and hard about which song to use for this scene, and I think it's pretty perfect, to be honest, because it has those first few bars where you can't tell, and then it only kicks in on the chorus. So back to the scene, we see Raquel starts to sing, and the scene does slow down somewhat to focus on the performance. Del is very happy to see Raquel performing, and it's very sweet. And I think if Raquel had just been brave enough to do this on her own, she would have been okay. She could have been the cabaret, right?
Well, Rodney looks really proud of her as well. Like, both of them do.
They seemed happy with
when
her
she's
performance.
singing.
So it's weird that Tony Dow said that Raquel's not meant to be any good, because she is supposed to be good, isn't she? I thought.
Well, I mean, she's not very expressive on the stage. That's something that I would say, just because I'm coming from like a performing arts point of view, but she doesn't sound that bad to me.
No, I mean, I think critically she's probably not hitting the right notes, but I think it would have been fine. I can't see anybody caring.
Yeah.
So Tony comes out, and it says in the script, Tony begins and acts like a Tom Jones. It actually says like a Tom Jones, I think, with dramatic movements and over-the-top gestures.
What can I do?
Yeah. So this is where the big reveal takes place. So here we see the whole audience looking dumbfounded and confused, and the shot that cuts to Del and Rodney is very funny because of the way that Rodney slowly looks down at Del to see his reaction, and Del mouths the word crying.
Yeah.
Tony does complete the performance very confidently, despite not being able to pronounce his R's, and even Raquel slips up towards the end, as we mentioned, when Tony says, "I'll be There is such a long silence at the end of the song and eventually a few trickles of polite applause. Raquel looks really angry.
Yeah.
And Eric has that massive smile on his face, as we mentioned earlier, a wide grin of satisfaction.
Yeah.
Rodney asks Del,
What do you reckon then?
I'll see you later.
and that's the end of the scene. What notes do you have, dude?
So I mentioned that what we said earlier, that I would have loved to have seen the Driscoll brothers be the ones that were in charge of this, but maybe it wouldn't have been the same because Del actually does know the Driscoll brothers and he could have maybe talked them round and been like, oh, come on, just give her a chance. So he didn't have that same relationship with Eugene, so he couldn't do that. I don't understand why Eric wouldn't resign as the manager if he's that afraid of Eugene. Like, surely he could resign and get another job or move away. Like, if you were staying in a job like that where you had someone like that like hanging over you, you'd run away, surely. Get out of there.
I don't know.
I said I think it's funny that Raquel insisted that she has someone else on stage with her, but they start her off with a solo where she has to be on stage all by herself.
Yeah, good point.
For quite a while. It's like, so you can do it on your own then. I said I love how animated Tony is on stage. It's just so funny, the movements and everything, the way he holds his mic. It's just brilliant.
What can I
crying,
do?
Yeah. So everyone's just like, what can I do? The crying reveal is probably one of the strongest reveals in all of Only Fools and Horses. It's unexpected. If you don't know what's coming and you're wondering what this episode is about, I think it's a great reveal. So Eugene in the next scene says that his mom thinks that it's one of the funniest things that she's ever seen, but it didn't look like that from her reaction here. She looks very pissed off. She doesn't look like she's finding it funny.
Maybe as it went on, it got funnier to her.
Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, like, because in reality, I think this is true. The majority of the audience would not be silent if something like this happened. They'd all probably laugh.
Yeah.
That's probably true. Especially because of how committed Tony is. Like, he doesn't shy away at all. He really goes for it, as you mentioned. And that's something that makes it even funnier.
Yeah.
So that's all I had for that scene.
Oh, okay. So now we go back to the flat for the very last scene of the episode, and Del is still dressed in his tux and pacing the living room nervously. Albert is sitting at the table, and he asks Del how it come he didn't know about Tony's speech impediment. So this is where I wrote the notes about the speech impediment, and I think I've already covered all of this, so I won't necessarily need to repeat it, but I only put a note here. Does anybody know more about this and can enlighten us? All I know is that the condition is called roticism, and couldn't find any notes about how common it is. So Del is quite right in saying that Tony should have told him here, and I think he was blinded by the £100, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Just a few moments later, Rodney and Raquel arrive home, and Raquel is very pissed off.
You bastard. You just walked out and left us.
What else could I do? I couldn't very well go up to Eugene's table and say, that was all right, different, wasn't it, eh? Did you finish the performance?
Oh, yes, Derek. We saw it through to the death. Please release me. Congratulations. And the green grass of home.
And that was followed by a medley of rock and roll.
That is not funny, Rodney.
You know, it's so funny watching sort of those three lines back to back, because Tessa, she really knocks it out of the park saying that line without any laughter at all. Like, she delivers it completely straight. Of course, Nick Lyndhurst has a get out clause because he's allowed to laugh when he says his line. And then David Jason, he just about gets through it without laughing, but you can see he's about to crack up, and the camera cuts away from him so quickly. I think he probably did laugh after he said it.
Yes, he laughs for sure, and I think we mentioned earlier that it seems like Nick Lyndhurst's laugh when he says "walk and wall" is genuine, and that's where it's interesting, because Rodney didn't laugh out loud in the club, but he clearly finds this whole situation very funny, and as you said, a lot of the audience probably would have as well, except they're all stony faced.
Yeah.
Raquel doesn't find it funny because she was kind of the butt of the joke as well. She's on the stage.
Yeah.
Del doesn't find it funny because he's mad.
Yeah, I mean, this is a problem that she didn't mention about having a singing partner, is it can also make your act worse.
Yeah, I mean, I would be more concerned about that when she didn't go out with Del, which, you know, in reality would have made probably good sense for her to go and help him pick the singing partner.
Yeah.
She just left him to it, and he went out and did a classic Del thing. And
yeah.
picked the wrong person because he didn't ask, did he? But I mean, it's not something you would ask, so I don't necessarily think... I do feel a bit sorry for Del in this scene, because as far as he knew, this was just going to be a great earner, and it is a shame that this had to happen, because, I mean, obviously, ultimately, he's the winner at the end of this episode, but
yeah,
he feels like everybody's ganging up on him here.
Yeah, true.
As you mentioned, many people have said in comments and trivia that David Jason breaks for real here, and he's really laughing, and I think... in reality, if Del hadn't been the one hiring Tony, he would have been on the floor laughing. So
yes,
he would find this funny. The only reason he doesn't is because he's now thinking he's going to get beaten up by Eugene.
Yeah, true.
So now there is a knock at the door, and Del assumes it's Eugene, but it's actually Tony.
Can I speak to Mr. Twatter?
So Tony has come for his money, and Del is trying, as he often does, to wheedle out of paying, but Tony is having none of it. He says he did the performance and he should be paid, but again, Del has a good point, because he should have told him.
Yeah, but I didn't know that you couldn't pronounce your R's, did I?
What does that matter?
Matters quite a lot when you're singing songs with R's in.
Well, I don't sing songs with R's in. And if a song has got an R in it, well, I change the lyrics.
Then why didn't you change the lyrics tonight?
How can I change the lyrics to crying? Bloody song's called Crying.
So Raquel is on Tony's side here, and she wants her money too. Del is ganged up on, is what I wrote, so I do feel bad. And Rodney is his last hope here. And he also agrees that he has nothing to do with it. And when Del suggests that the contract Rodney drew up had a get-out clause in, which it didn't, they all hold out their hands for the money. And Del really has no choice but to pay them. Except he doesn't have enough left for Rodney.
Of course.
Which is definitely, again, bringing back the old trotter ways. After he gets his money, Tony does a little bit the speech here, as we mentioned earlier, which is a little bit sad.
You know what you've got, don't you?
What?
Derek.
What?
An ism.
Ism? An ism? I ain't got an ism, have I, Rodney?
Well, there's a lot of crap in the garage. You're not alone in your prejudice. We got sexism, waistism, heightism, and ageism. Well, I'm a victim of pronunciationism. I've got a good voice. I've got good style. I've got perfect tone. But just because I pronounce my O's differently from the rest of you, I can never be a star. And just because of my pronunciation, you've dumped me.
But what about me? Hey, I got lumbered with a star whose props come from Lillian Skinner's, Crown Toppers and Matterson's.
You can always find another singer. Well, I'm stuck with my problem.
So Tony is actually right here when he says he's being held back by his problem.
Yeah.
Although Albert does mention here those few celebrities that we said earlier about who have become successful despite their roticism.
No one who pronounces ours like I do have ever become successful.
There's Roy Jenkins and Jonathan Ross.
Exactly.
So poor, dejected Tony leaves here, and I feel really sorry for him. It seems that Del does too. He feels guilty for the whole situation, but he doesn't actually think it is his fault. And when Albert supports that, Del tells him to go grab a brandy, and I love Albert's little duck
I love that.
here. He's so funny the way he just moves towards the bar.
Now we know why Albert often supports Del. He gets rewarded with brandies.
Yeah, I mean, Albert's right. It's not Del's fault that Tony is being discriminated against for his pronunciation.
No.
Del put him in the spotlight, which maybe makes him guilty for this whole situation, but the whole prejudice of the situation is not Del's fault. So there's really just one joke left here, and the phone rings and it's Eugene, and we are definitely led to believe by the dialogue that Eugene is actually angry and that his mom wasn't doing too well after the performance. But when Del comes off the phone, we get the final reveal.
No, he wants to sign you and Tony up for a 5-week contract. His mum liked you.
You're kidding.
No, straight up. She reckoned it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen in her life. Now, Tony! Tony! Where did he go? Tony! Hey! Just a minute, I've got some more bookings for you. Stick with me, son, I'll make you witch!
That is the end of the episode. So, dude, what notes do you have for that final scene?
I would have loved to have seen Albert catching his beard in the food mixer.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
Rodney mentions he hasn't laughed so much since then. I would have loved to have seen that. I love it when Del's trying to get some sympathy that he accuses Albert of cheating him because of the bus fare that he claimed.
Yeah, I know.
It's really funny.
It was a very weak, thin argument.
Who's cheated you? Well, then him.
Yeah.
He did it. It's really funny.
I know. Poor Albert.
That reminds me a little bit of who told you that? Was that Albert? No, it's like the last one. It's always Albert in the end.
Yeah.
I love the character of Tony. It would have been great to see him again. I really enjoyed every part that he was in. Yeah, it would have been cool to just see him, I don't know, in the background in the pub, hanging out or whatever, you know.
Yeah, with Trigger.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been really cool to see him again. But I understand why we didn't. I know he's kind of... The whole episode revolves around his problem. So, yeah, there's no way they could have done it again. It's interesting to see Rodney and Raquel team up against Del in this scene. The way they sort of sit on the couch and stare at him. They're very in sync here, which is quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said here for Eugene, would you really hire a regular cabaret just because they made your mom laugh because of how bad they were? Surely that would not be good for business.
Well, it doesn't matter what's good for business because if Lil McCarthy likes something, she gets her way.
Yeah, I just think, you know, because he's at the end of the day, he's got a business to run and she's not going to go to every single show. So it's just a bit weird that he decided to hire them just for that one reason. Then surely as well, to make the act the same every time that they did it, they'd have to keep choosing songs that had R's in them for Tony to sing, because if he ever sang any of his regular songs that didn't have the R's, then the act wouldn't be funny anymore. So it's like Tony's condition would have been exploited by Eugene.
Yeah, but I mean, honestly, we know he sang Delilah and the other song in the club that he said he knows what songs he can sing that don't have R's in.
Yeah.
How are there that many songs that don't have R's in?
Well, he did say that he changes the lyrics,
Right.
so it's probably not that they have like R's in the main part of the song that can't be changed. Maybe in other parts he just changes it. That's probably the case. But obviously for a song like Crying or Congratulations, you can't get rid of the R's. And I just think that this episode overall, it's wrapped up very nicely. I think it's quite realistic, and yeah, it's very well done across the board. This episode, a good strong episode of Any Fools and Horses.
Okay, so if there's nothing else, let's move on to our awards section.
Okay, so as always, we have 3 awards to announce this week, and we're going to start with our Plonker of the Week.
You stupid little plonker.
So for Plonker of the Week, we each nominate a Plonker, and we will discuss and decide who wins. Okay, dude, I had a bit of trouble with this one, did you?
Yeah, I did, and I still am not really sure, because I originally put Del, but then I thought like long and hard about it, and I didn't think Del really did that much wrong here, apart from lying about the amount. He had good intentions.
Yeah, I put 3 things for Del. I put trying to rip off Raquel, leaving the venue when things went wrong
That's bad,
for Raquel
yeah.
and Rodney, and trying to blame everyone else in the last scene.
Yeah, but I don't think he does that much, really. We give Del Plonker a lot, and I would say I don't feel like Del is the biggest Plonker in this episode, and I feel bad because I also did nominate Tony for not being honest, and I think that he is the biggest Plonker because if he'd just been honest, they could have changed the repertoire.
Actually, I'm going to give you another one to think about. What about Eric?
Yeah, Eric is a really big Plonker.
Eric knows Del. He manipulates him to taking the job, knowing full well that he's just trying to set him up to get beaten up by Eugene.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, that's not a nice thing to do.
But we don't really know what Del did in the past to do Eric out of 500 quid.
But even so, that's still a really mean thing to do, to get someone's like pregnant girlfriend involved to get her on the stage, and then so Del can get beaten up. Like, that's a really bad thing to do. So actually, I'm going to give it to Eric.
Yeah, so since we don't want to give it to Del or Tony, let's give it to Eric.
Well, you did, didn't you?
Okay, and this week Jenny will award the best line of the episode, and I'm going to give the best moment. So, dude, what have you chosen for the best line?
Well, I have a couple of nominations. I'm probably going to give it to either the Laurie London line or the Walk and Wall line. Those are my 2 biggest nominations, yeah. What nominations did you have?
I put 2 nominations, and they're different to both of yours. I put
great.
Raquel singing in the Starlight Rooms, A Voice and a Half Travel, because I love that line. And also I put the Quicker by Tube line.
Yeah, those are 2 lines that actually get applause from the audience, yeah.
But yeah, you can choose. I mean, if you want to give it to Fran's favourite line, as a shout out to Fran.
I do really love that line. And I think
is a very clever line.
Yeah, I like all the lines that you said. It's just my favourite line. I think the delivery of that line is really good, and just the expressions and stuff included in it. I think obviously all of the lines are excellent and any of them could be contenders, and there's probably even more lines. Any line that Tony says in the last scene, because the delivery is really good, to be honest. Yeah, it's a very difficult one. But yeah, in honor of Fran not being part of this episode, and she would be on the podcast if she wasn't so busy, I think.
The time difference would be difficult, though. It'd be right in the middle of the day for her, so.
Yeah, and it already takes us so long to record. I'm not quite sure adding a third person make it any better.
Yeah.
She will be on one day. But yeah, let's give it to Fran's favourite line. When you were top of the bill with Otis Redding and Talk of the Town London, it was Laurie London at the Talk of the Town Reading.
And I've chosen the best moment, and I think we all know what this is going to be, so I don't think I even really need to tell you, but obviously it's crying. But actually, do you have any other nominations, dude? Because I couldn't think of any others that could beat this one, to be honest.
I think the scene where Tony takes off his costume pieces is very good.
Yes.
I don't think it's easy to say best moment in there. Maybe the salami, because a lot of people do really love that part and everybody laughs so much. But
yeah.
I don't think it can trump the reveal of the song. So
especially watching this episode for the first time, I think that would be like a huge moment for anyone watching. And that is what it's all building up to, the whole episode.
Yeah,
so
definitely that has got to be the favourite moment for sure.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, drink up, we're leaving.
Okay, so that about wraps it up for this week. Join us in 2 weeks' time when we will be discussing Series 7, Episode 4, The Class of 62. Until then...
Au revoir, listeners. If you like what you hear and want to contact us, please email us at longlivehookeystreetpodcast@gmail.com. Wherever you are listening to us, please give us a like, subscribe, or follow. And it really helps us out if you give the podcast a rating or review. Use our link tree to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages. And if you feel inclined, you can buy us a pina colada on buymeacoffee.com. Bonjour.